Only 2 matches left before we crown our 3rd and last Premier League champion of 2015. That's right, get excited, Krakow, and get excited, all of you at home. I was thinking backstage, I know some people are not a big fan of PvP, but it's very interesting if there's a potential that we get a PvP final, and if we do, I wouldn't be surprised if it's because we also have the Legacy of the Void cinematic reveal today. There might be a connection there, so Protoss fans, get excited. But for all of you here, it's about more than that. It's about more than that. There's a certain player, I think I saw him yesterday. I think he was up in the air here on stage yesterday at some point, and we'll get to meet him in a second. Oh, don't get too excited just yet. We gotta wait for him because before he comes onto the stage, I first want to introduce we live in a crazy world where I'm going to introduce to you the Korean hope of the WCS Premier League. The last Korean standing, ladies and gentlemen, it is ForGG! And his opponent, if he's the Korean hope, this man is the knight in shining armor of Poland. That's right, Krakow, get ready for MaNa! To challenge Little Bo for the crown here at the WCS Season 3 Premier League Finals. It's time to find out, ladies and gentlemen, in semifinal number 2.
It's time. Second semi-final, moments away. I can't help but feel Artosis joining us on the desk with Pig and in control. What it feels like to be MaNa on that stage, looking down, everyone screaming your name, knowing that you're fighting for not just yourself, but for everyone else as well.
I mean, I think there's obviously a lot of pressure on him. He's probably putting pressure on himself also, but like, the crowd helped him yesterday. There's no denying that. He looked dead so many times and just came back, fought back, and got to this round of 4. So, you know what? I think that the crowd is going to continue to fuel this man, and I think he is absolutely going to that finals.
Yeah, a lot of people would be just breaking down in this situation, but actually MaNa looks so calm. Like, the crowd is really behind him, and that's awesome. But even that, sometimes we were like, oh my God, they all expect me to win. But he seems so calm, and he's going to need that, because speaking of calmness, someone check ForGG's pulse, because I'm not even entirely sure he's aware of what's happening right now. He's about to play to go to the finals, $30,000, but also a ticket to BlizzCon. And in his way is MaNa. And this is a guy that ForGG has battled against many a time on that ladder. These guys are both very familiar with each other on that European scene.
And that's going to play, obviously, a big factor into this series when you know each other inside out.
I mean, it's kind of crazy. You think there's so many mind games that go into it, but also if you look at both players' styles, it's like these are both aggressive guys, and I know especially ForGG isn't known to change it up. No matter what he knows about his opponent, he plays the way he wants to play. And I think MaNa, to some extent, is the same sort of guy, but I think he's going to be the one who's going to be looking to exploit ForGG a little bit more. ForGG just wants to get in there. In
the round of 16, Artosis, ForGG said, why couldn't I have been drawn against a Protoss in the quarterfinals? And he said that if he did get to the semifinals, this is where he's going to shine. And by the way, I'm not sure if you caught that, the baguette was left in there by Lilbo as a good luck charm for ForGG, obviously being teammates. We'll see if that comes into play. But he gets to play against a Protoss, which he's wanted to do in the playoffs, which hasn't had the chance to yet.
I find that interesting because I've never, like, ForGG, fantastic Terran versus Terran, we all know that. His mech versus Zerg, absolutely one of a kind, but I've always felt like his TvP might actually be his Achilles heel.
I think historically it definitely has, and in recent times especially, he has had some games where he's looked to be having a bit of trouble in the matchup. Maybe it's one of these moments where as a player he's saying, I want to vindicate that, I want to show I can take it on in such an important moment, but I do think it's his hardest matchup, and I think this does give MaNa a big opportunity to make something happen.
I mean, we've been talking about Lilbo trying to get to the global finals from the beginning of the season, if not last season, and he's been saying he wants to go, but so does ForGG. In 2013, mid-20s when it comes to his rank. 2014, same again, mid-20s. Right now, just like Lilbo, he's inside the top 20, but he needs a victory here to actually get that. And that's when you are so close to something, being ripped away from it for 3 years straight is devastating.
Yeah, and he's always, like, let's not forget, he's actually won championships back in Brood War and in StarCraft 2 as well. This is a guy that, when he gets towards the end of a tournament, does not become a worse player. He becomes better because he's been there before, and he wants it really bad. There's just more incentive now with BlizzCon looming as well. Yeah, and let's switch focus now to MaNa, because this is MaNa's, funny enough, first top 4 since 2012. I know a lot of people have been talking about Poland, but his first top 4 since 2012. He comes to this with so much momentum behind him, Artosis. You spoke to about it already, but that fuel gave him the victory yesterday.
Absolutely. Like, in game 3, I was just certain, like, oh my god, this looks like it's going to be a 3-0. This is really rough. You know, I felt like MaNa could do it. He's such a smart and talented player. But, you know, the crowd never gave up on him, and he never gave up on the crowd. And he was able to power through.
He did power through, Artosis.
I know that was a good line.
I was just trying to wrap that around.
I mean, does he have what it takes now to win on that stage again?
You know, not to be the buzz killer, but technically, if we weren't on this stage, if we weren't in this venue, I'd say ForGG is a big favorite. He's been in great form recently. Most recently, after Season 2 was a bit disappointing. And he's just such a strong mechanical player all around. He's so damn good. But after seeing the way MaNa has defied our expectations over and over again throughout the course of this season, it's something where you're almost afraid to bet against him in any situation now.
Even in this matchup, I remember we were talking about him versus Marine Lord. We're like, okay, MaNa, you know, good job. You've survived to this point. Surely you're done. But it's another one of those situations where he dodges even more bullets. And what's not to love about that completely soulless stare?
Oh, man.
He looks comfortable up there, though.
Yeah.
That's obviously something that's going to give a lot of confidence to everyone who's rooting for him. Let's take a look at the map pool, then. So, obviously, same again. The players get a single veto each, and then we're left with the 5 maps that we're going to be playing on. There are some maps that do favor Terran, likewise do favor Protoss a little bit in this matchup. Talk to us about the map pool here, Artosis.
All right, well, I mean, obviously we see Coda and Terraform as the first 2 maps. I think that's pretty important to see how those 2 maps go, because after you get off of those 2, you have 2 of the kind of more crazy maps in Moonlight Madness and Iron Fortress that are going to be like, the games are going to be a little bit more wonky. We might see some all-ins from the disfavored player. So, you know, Coda and Terraform, that's where we got to, like, if MaNa doesn't win Coda, it's a very tough series, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we see Moonlight Madness, by the way, for I think the 2nd time, and it's a really fun map. But I'm looking at this, I'm worried about the drops, of course. That's always going to be your concern, especially against ForGG. He's so aggressive. But MaNa, he plays the passive PvT really well as well. That's something we saw with him against Marine Lord. Actually, like, painfully passive sometimes. It's like, no, MaNa, just go! And he's like, no, not yet. It's not time. He's like a Jedi about it. He's just like, not yet, my son. So we'll have to see it. I mean, he's so calm out there. The crowd is behind him, but he's not letting it overtake him. He's not shaking in the booth or anything like that. He looks so good.
Well, what is it about the first map, then? Let's switch our focus to Coda. Why is this such an important map? Pig, if you can join in with Artosis on this one. Why is it?
Well, I think Coda, of course, it's one of the more standard-ish maps, but it's also very important because it's going to be like the map where it sets the pace for the entire series. And of course, if you do look at it, if it gets out of control here, the drops just go crazy. I mean, that position where from out front, the natural, you can kind of dive into the main, dive around the third, creates a lot of spaces there.
Yeah, you know, as you were saying in Control, he can play a very good defensive macro game, but if he can't win a defensive macro game on Coda, like, maybe he chooses to cheese here, but I think that that's a fine map to go ahead, slow it down a little bit, see what ForGG is thinking for the series. So I think that that's a good strategy to go in here with. You know, slow it down, play this map defensively and take that first victory, showing that you can play the long game.
And that was kind of his game plan, actually, as well, when he went up against Betrayus, right? He tried to go for the slow game, but he's always got the bag of tricks to back it up. And Moonlight Madness being his pick for the third map, I think that's where we're definitely going to see something special. This is a really weird map, and we saw that's what pulled MaNa out through the round of 8. It's what got him here. It was having really clever prepared builds, and I think with the whole night to think about this series, as the set goes on, he's going to show us stranger and more interesting and unique plays.
Well, let's hope so. Time for the fun part of the show. It's the predictions time from the experts. Where do they think this one's going? Is it with the Korean or is it with the Polishman? It is split 3-5 in favor of MaNa.
You guys are getting better at this. You guys are getting better.
But in control, as much as we've started to favor MaNa, and as Pig has mentioned and Autosis has mentioned, the momentum behind him is strong. You've still chosen ForGG. Explain to us why.
Well, I've had pretty bad luck with picking, so I feel confident that someone's going to be happy here. I did pick ForGG just because, again, I keep seeing him, and he's playing better and better each series, and I feel like that's a very scary prospect as he's getting closer to the finals. But he also has more to play for. Well, that's arguable, but I feel like he has more to play for.
You'd say, though, that maybe 5-3 kind of, resembles the kind of ratio as well. If you look at it, 5-3 type of game for ForGG, there's definitely you're looking at ForGG as a favorite overall in this series.
Look, I mean, a lot of people do think that ForGG is going to be the favorite. Obviously, he's a big-time champion. This is someone that is always hitting near the top of tournaments. But, I was a little bit disappointed yesterday when it was like 8-0 in favor of Betrayus against MaNa, and I think a lot of people are underestimating him. So, I think that this should go towards him. I think that he has what it takes, and ForGG, I don't know if his Terran vs. Protoss is going to hold up here.
Okay, last final words real quick now, Pig, before we get into this.
I mean, this is going to be a very intense series, but it is that battle that we talked about. ForGG comes in as the favorite player. The momentum here, though, is on MaNa's side, and it's all about disrupting ForGG, outthinking him, getting under his skin and making him uncomfortable up there. So MaNa's just got to feed off this energy. He's got to use his brain. He's got to have a smart, prepared builds, and he definitely can. He can make it work, but he's got a hard road ahead of him. We cannot understate how strong ForGG is.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. It's time to begin semi-final number 2. Remember, the Legacy of the Void Cinematic is just a couple of hours away. Everybody's looking forward to it just as much as semi-final number 2.
This is it, Roddy. Two men fighting for two very different things. ForGG on the brink of making it to BlizzCon, and MaNa, well, he's feeding off the energy of this wonderful crowd we've had all weekend.
It's going to be an awesome series, Nate. I'm so excited for it. Of course, I'm always excited for Protoss versus Terran, especially with you. And this is one of the best series, one of the coolest series, I think, we are going to cast and have casted in a very, very long time. Two players that have quite a bit of history with each other as well, Nate. But today, it's safe to say that this is the biggest series they've ever played against each other.
That's right, competing to go to the grand finals to face off against Lobo here at the end of Season 3 premiere. Only one can move on. We shall now find out as we are loaded into Coda from map number 1 of this best of 5. And in the bottom right position, as the blue Terran player trying to fight for his BlizzCon dreams, he's ForGG! And his opponent, spawning in the northwest position, the red Protoss from Team Liquid, from Poland, he's MaNa!
The winner will move on to the grand finals of WCS Premier League Season 3, where Lilbao is waiting. Our first map is going to be Coda, Nate. The boys at the desk already said it. Coda is the most standard map out there right now. This is the most played map among all competitions, among all pro gamers. So I'd even go as far to say winning this one gives you a small edge going into the entire series, saying like, hey, I won on the most standard map. If nothing too crazy happens, I think I'm actually the better player over here.
Yeah, and for both of these guys, this is that map you get the most practice on. This is where your most straight-up builds are likely to work. But we have to keep in mind, ForGG is one of those guys who's very, very familiar with all the different things that you're going to see on ladder. He's a ladder machine, but he's also the easiest player to study. And if you're a Terran player, you don't always want a Protoss to be able to look at your weak points and find these special build orders that are very strong in the early game to take you out fast.
Of course, both of them have already revealed quite a bit of how they like to approach this matchup. ForGG had a very big series against Lil Bao in the round of 16, where he was able to come out victorious. Actually, where he lost 1-2 in the end, but it was very close. And he used a pretty unique build on Koda, where he opened up with the Marines and the Hellions. MaNa, on the other end, he played a big series against Marine Lord, which he was able to win. But of course, he too revealed quite a bit. So both players, without a shadow of a doubt, Nate, they've been watching those games last night.
And all the preparation, everything building up to this moment. So much at stake for either of these men as they step into this arena. And MaNa, you know, it's crazy. This crowd's already just cheering. We're so excited for this series.
Hey man, probes are pretty fierce. He's actually hiding a probe as well. Could just be a scouting probe that he's going to send back to the natural in 20 seconds. For now, ForGG is going to be as annoying as possible, wants to delay this Nexus from going down. The Reaper is almost there, so this probe has to get back home as soon as possible, and that's exactly what is going to happen. MaNa still has that probe out on the map, Nate. He didn't send it back yet.
That's right. He could move it back in to try to see what the follow will be. Will it be a factory? Will it be a second barracks, a third barracks? Now the probe's heading in. He's going to find out as this Reaper steps back. Yep. For ForGG, he hasn't seen anything too crazy. This is pretty normal, but he'll be pretty upset that his plan, his factory, is revealed to MaNa right now.
Yep. This may not seem like a whole lot, but this gives you such a nice state of mind. The probe could actually go for glory over here and go for the SCV. He could also be annoying and try to work on the SCV that was built in the command center. But I like how you said it, Nate. Seeing the factory, that's so nice for a Protoss. You know it's not going to be a crazy 2-Rex or 3-Rex. He's going to go in one more time. I don't think this was necessarily necessary, but you know, he's going to see the factory, he's going to see the amount of gas that has been mined, and the Reaper, all the way back home, was able to pick up that probe. But I like it as MaNa. Twilight going down as a response to this.
Yeah, so MaNa now has the option to go for a defensive blink play, could try to get aggressive as well, but it will give him the mobility he needs to deal with a fast starport play, which is what ForGG is opting for. MaNa's aware of this. He saw the factory. Widow Mine drops are a staple of Terran vs. Protoss. Can ForGG spot the Twilight? He's immediately pushed back. No information for him.
Nope, he may expect it. Of course it's going to be tricky. Opening up with a Twilight against his opening is great, but there is always a small window where maybe you don't have detection yet in place. And against someone like ForGG, Nate, as someone who has faced him a couple of times on ladder, his mines, I don't know what's up with those mines, but they always get the juicy shots off. They always get the money shots that you're hoping for as a Terran player. So delaying that robotics facility or even skipping a forge for now is risky. MaNa will most likely get gate 2 and 3 even before the robo. It's really important that he keeps tracking. Okay, the robo is going to go down. I think that's smart, Nate.
Yeah, it's very important, of course, once those mines plant themselves without detection, there's really nothing you can do as a Protoss. You're going to have to feed units or just lose workers then.
Careful
These Marines move across the map, MaNa sees it, pulls his Stalker back. He really needs to be careful. That Stalker, if he loses this, is going to make dealing with the mine so much more difficult. First Widow Mine comes up, Photon Overcharge is activated. MaNa buys himself a little bit of time.
There's a Reaper in the back of the natural mineral line, but there was a Stalker taking care of it. MaNa not losing anything there, taking out the Reaper as well. But I think the most important thing there for ForGG is ForGG wanted to activate Photon Overcharge, and that is what happened. So this follow-up, it's still going to be scary and it's still going to be very difficult. So far so good, of course, for MaNa. He didn't lose anything, but using Photon Overcharge, I think that's almost everything that ForGG wanted over there. So the next defense, it's going to be a lot more difficult, because without Photon, Nate, it's a lot more, when you only have 3 or 4 units to work with, you have to be so careful where those Stalkers go.
Yeah, covering the distance between both bases will be really tough, and now that ForGG has done this, he can attack the natural. The Mothership Core can't actually overcharge again, so he still has the choice of going even to the straight to the main base, even if there was. And now all the Stalkers are in the main. Probes running for their lives. Roddy, he's stepping over towards the back of the natural. They need to run. Stalkers take a big shot from that Widow Mine too.
Yep, already getting a couple of probes there. The Observer is still alive, and it's very important that he keeps this Observer alive. That one Widow Mine splashed over all the Stalkers. MaNa has to stay on top of his control, but ends up losing one Stalker already. Blink has finished up though, Nate. So 1 or 2 more warp-ins, and I think MaNa should be good, but he can't lose more workers.
Yeah, this is so stressful. The Mothership Core is a mile away. MaNa blinks to the right side, trying to create a little bit of space for him to use those blinks. And there's a Widow Mine in his natural mineral line, so he's not able to mine off of either of his bases. MaNa's completely broken this position.
Yeah, he's losing so much already. Good micro there by ForGG as well. Picking up those Marines that are running low on HP. So MaNa's forced to go for the medevac. Eventually, MaNa will clean this up, but not before ForGG has created a worker lead for himself.
Yeah, ForGG puts himself in a good spot. Even though the workers are even, he has the call down mule ability, which will give him so much more income versus opponent. We see 3 of them land right now, and that gives a big economic edge to the Terran player in this early phase of the game.
Yep, and it's also Blink Stalkers. They start falling off a little bit. These are not Stalkers that can be very aggressive anymore. ForGG is going to try to be aggressive one more time. MaNa has no eyes, by the way, on the south side of his main base, which makes defending in general rather tricky. He could go for a Blink here and snipe the Medivac immediately, or make sure that the mines... No! The mines are going to shoot!
Mines are going to burrow. He needs to move the probes away. K loses 2 workers so far. So just 3 probes, that could have been a lot worse, but still, he already lost so many workers in this game. He really needs to be careful with these further drops.
And he's losing mining time again, Nate, and especially when you don't have a robotics bay done yet, or you don't have charge to work with. Blink Stalkers are great in sniping Medivacs or putting on soft pressure, or if you want to go super all in, you know, try to end the game. But the longer this game goes on, ForGG went for Rex number 4 and 5 before Command Center number 3, which means that he's going to have a ridiculous amount of bio units to work with. The Observer lives for now, that's very nice. Yeah. But still though, he's going up to 3 bases right here and right now against the Terran. That's on 5 Rex. That's almost suicide.
I mean, in this position, he has to take some sort of risk, I imagine. The first Colossus is on the way, and as the Terran player, it's still a little bit tricky for ForGG to move out. His stim was very much so delayed by that fast mine drop, and I guess MaNa needs to try to take a risk somewhere.
I'm just very worried because he only has 2 sentries. He's getting his first Colossus. It's halfway done, but no thermal lens yet. And if you just look at the main base and then all the way to the third base, there's a lot of distance to travel. And ForGG, he's a master in picking up units and finding that opening somewhere. And the moment you drop a couple of Colossus in a position where there are no Zealots or no cannon, you know, just Stalkers and just a Colossus is often not going to cut it. This is going to be very tricky. It's very ambitious what MaNa is doing over here.
Yeah, if he can get away with it, he will be able to recover and stabilize this game, but he sees this massive force moving out for ForGG with only a single Colossus, but that does not have that range upgrade. I'm not entirely sure how he's going to take a big fight.
I mean, I guess if he's on top of a ramp, if he fights with his entire army and Photon Overcharge, MaNa's fine. Maybe sniping up a Medivac, that would be great, but ForGG is not going to let it happen. Very few force fields available, but those force fields were good though.
Yeah, nice job. MaNa clips off a little bit of this army. The third base is spotted, but ForGG lost a good bit of supply. It's going to be a little bit trickier for him to break this position, especially considering that a Thermal Lance and the second Colossus are very close to completing.
The Observer from MaNa is so close, but he hasn't seen this yet. Now, Medivac number 4 and 5 are on the way as well. These are the scariest moments out there. ForGG is going to find it immediately. He's going to kill the Observer. This makes life even more complicated. He's going to pick up these units immediately. MaNa has a few units in position, though.
Yeah, he needs to get ready. He needs to get down towards the south side of his base. He has 1 Colossus with this force. If he can kill those Medivacs, he can prevent the army from retreating, but they're going to dive in on top of the Colossus. Not able to get it yet. The Warpin's hitting just in time. Also hitting the third base at the same time. MaNa holding both positions at once. Blinks back and takes out a Medivac on the retreat.
Wow, that was
phenomenal defense.
Yeah, that was very good. That couldn't really have gone a whole lot better. ForGG is not done yet though. More bio units are running across the map. He's still working off just 2 bases. So ForGG knows that he needs to find an opening, and he's doing a pretty okay job so far with these Marauders. These mines are going to complicate things as well, so it's very important that cannon finishes up.
Yeah, he really needs to get some detection out. There's also that Widow Mine on the right side. If he blinks aggressively, he could lose quite a bit. 2 more Medivacs join that west side here, and what is in position to defend? A good number of Stalkers. He needs to get in position right now. There they go. First blink, not able to pick up one of those Medivacs. There's 1 Photon Cannon here too, but the Marauders are spreading out behind the mineral line, getting 6-7 probe kills already.
This is going to be very risky. The SimCity kind of working against ForGG. Now, ForGG didn't unload all of his units, by the way, and MaNa snipes it.
Okay, 1 Medivac down. He should be able to pick up the rest of them as Photon Overcharge activates. Second Colossus comes home. He still has an army at the third base to defend that. It cleans out a lot of those Terran forces.
I think that was pretty damn okay for MaNa there. Yes, he lost 10 workers, but there is still no third command center for ForGG, so his time is starting to run out a little bit. He's going to throw it down now, but that's late. MaNa is up 8 workers. ForGG is engaging again at the third base. We'll see if MaNa has enough units in position. It seems like he has. Kills a Medivac. But
1 mine still getting a little bit of damage done, but you are spot on, Kev. ForGG's push is running out of steam. This third command center is so late, he doesn't have the economy to keep pushing off 5 barracks while getting upgrades, and that's really going to allow these splash damage units to do so much more work. Here comes the next big drop into the main base. 2 of those Medivacs were empty. Keep in mind, Widow Mine's going to burrow. The probes are on the run. He needs to make sure he doesn't take any big shots.
Actually does a little bit of damage to the Medivac. Stalkers work on it immediately. Not too much left for ForGG. 1 more Medivac goes down.
On the way out, a great pickup for MaNa and ForGG's third command center, only halfway done now, and this is such a good spot to be in. He's rounding out this army, and he hasn't lost any of his Colossi. He has 4 of them on the map. He could be gearing up to go for a big push, and I think ForGG, this third base might not pay off in time to defend it.
I mean, it's very risky right now, I think, for MaNa to run across the map, though. The moment he does that, it's going to turn into a base trade, and you don't really want a base trade unless you actually have Storm to defend and stuff like that. I think MaNa is just still in the phase of stabilizing. He's done a damn good job in doing so. Oh, this is going to be a tricky one, though. He really needs some Zealots. ForGG is going to drop on top of the army, I think.
Yeah, coming into the third base, 2 Colossi in position, trying to defend a few force fields as well. Widowmine will get snapped up. There's still 2 Colossi trying to target them, but they're pulling back beautifully. The next 2 are coming over from the natural. MaNa is holding so far. Blink's forward. He's going to start to get the medevacs as well. No retreat for this Terran army just yet.
Nope, a lot of buy units going down. Of course, 2 Colossus went down as well. I think MaNa can chase there, actually. I'm not sure what he's afraid of. He has way more than ForGG has. He had plenty of Stalkers, perhaps macroing at home a little bit. I think ForGG is gearing for another drop into the main base as well, but he doesn't really have anything there. That's 2 Marauders, Nate.
Yeah, it's very, very weak in force. ForGG just now starting to get a few more upgrades as MaNa finishes his +1 attack. Those Widowmines, though, doing quite a bit of work here as they grabs another Stalker at that third.
That's a good drop. Photon Overcharge being activated in the main just for 2 Marauders. I think that ForGG is quite happy with that. But MaNa has done a phenomenal job. After the way that early game went, Nate, it was so difficult to stabilize on 3 locations, and he's almost done it. But ForGG, he's not done yet. MaNa has a few too many units right now in his main base. This is almost everything that ForGG has. He's worried about a drop that doesn't exist.
Yeah, and that mine still on the edge of the third base also makes it tricky to move in. Do not want to take splash damage on those Zealots. Assimilator gets knocked out. ForGG steps forward, looking for the Colossus. He shoots, he misses, and that mine takes another Zealot, so he defends once again.
Templar Archives going down, and of course we all know the moment that Protoss gets both Colossus and High Templars on the field, a couple of Archons in the mix, a few Storms available, feedback makes life a lot easier against medevac drops. So MaNa right now, he's just like, I'm just gonna keep on defending. He's working off 2 forges as well. Upgrades are dead even, but MaNa can probably spend quite a bit of chrono boost on these forges. He's throwing up a few more cannons. He's setting himself up in an extremely defensive position, and ForGG is still trying to break him, but so far MaNa is not crumbling.
And you can see through the eyes of a Protoss trying to deal with all of these Terran drop plays, sees the scan, realizes, okay, here comes the next big force, there's the drop into the main base, and MaNa trying to focus fire down those medevacs with his Stalkers as the Colossi target fire down the Widow Mines. He's prevented him from cementing a position, focuses down 1, focuses down a second medevac, and he'll clean up this drop in the main with ease.
Yeah, that was a horrible trade there for ForGG. The Cybercore may go down, but MaNa got so many expensive units there, and he got so many bio units as well. ForGG is going to try his luck over here, but I think that MaNa should have enough with a couple of Zealots, Colossus, Stalkers, and Overcharge.
Yeah, both Colossi still alive. First one does get knocked down, those Marauders focusing them. He barely keeps it alive as he moves forward and destroys the army of ForGG once again.
And takes for the first time in this game a commanding supply lead. MaNa is up 36 supply. He's up 17 army supplies. Storm is about to finish up. Two upgrades are about to finish up. He has plenty of High Templars. Man, he has done a phenomenal job in defending. And now finally, with Storm being ready, MaNa is like, all right, let's take a look how the other side of Coda looks, because with the amount of units I've killed, I can't imagine a whole lot is waiting for me over there.
Yeah, MaNa's playing it a little bit safe. He'll throw down the 4th Nexus first. That scan would have spotted the army if he continued pushing. But ForGG, he's putting all his chips towards that third base of MaNa. Wants to try to pick that off and maybe force a base trade if MaNa attacks him.
This is such a crazy play, because if you take a look at ForGG's vision, he has absolutely no idea where this army is right now. So obviously as a Terran, you're a little bit paranoid too. Like, should I do this? Should I try to engage the base raid? ForGG knows if the armies clash right now...
Oh my god! The MaNa Stalkers are all the way! The whole entire army is there in medevacs! He spots it! He won't kill any, but he knows about where ForGG's army is now.
Yep, and that's already a minor victory. ForGG does start 3-3. That could have been a lot worse for ForGG. He's basically just buying time. A Dark Shrine is going down as well. It's kind of the icing on the cake. It's very good in defending drops. Obviously awesome in preventing new bases from going up and just harassing a little bit all over the place.
Yeah, I really like this position as he starts to get charged now. Protoss on 4 bases with all of these warp gates that he's added on. 13 at the moment will give him the power to reinforce with such ferocity. And now he's getting up outside of that natural third base choke point of ForGG. This could be the big moment. ForGG's unloaded most of his army in the northeast side. He sees this army with the scan. He needs to be so careful.
Oh, these medevacs are flying over the Stalkers, Nate.
Oh, he moves over. Okay, so the medevac's on the high ground. The army's on the right side. He sees this. He's going to blink back. He needs to be so careful right now.
Yeah, he could get sandwiched. Of course, he does have Storm, and you can storm both sides as well, but He's definitely playing with fire a little bit, but what he does, Nate, is he's giving himself so much map presence now, right? He has pylons everywhere, he has a forward base, he starts dropping in units left and right. I would love to see a High Templar or two on every base.
Yeah,
and here comes the feedback.
On the third, yeah, feedback's on the Medivacs, picks up quite a few of them, doesn't have too many other forces here though, as ForGG tries to go on the northwest side too. He's going to go straight to the main base, lost quite a few Medivacs actually trying to get in there, and ForGG's Widow Mines detonate, but his army gets cleaned up again!
Yeah, but he doesn't really have a whole lot left, Nate. You said it, he lost 3 or 4 Medivacs trying to enter the main base. Feedback's going down as well. This has been shut down, and now MaNa has such a commanding lead in this game. He's taking control, he can run across the map, he has everything going for himself.
Yeah, MaNa's just revving up those engines. He's marching across map. 2 more Medivacs for free for MaNa. Grabs them, and now how is ForGG supposed to defend 127 supply to 200? There's nothing here to stop this Protoss force.
The Protoss dream, Nate, being maxed out, having Blink Stalkers, having Colossus, having Observers, and High Templars with you against a Terran that doesn't have Ghosts. Something very, very strange has to happen for MaNa not to pick up game number 1.
Yeah, this army does not look stoppable, Roddy. He checks for the 4th base, like, wow, you've really played on low econ this game. And ForGG drops possibly his last mules of map number 1. The 3rd command center is under fire. SCVs running wild as MaNa knocks down this expansion and cuts off all the economy of ForGG.
Yep, a couple of Widow Mines. Actually, most of them just shoot at a few Zealots. That's not bad at all for MaNa, because he has so many more Zealots. He still has his Observer alive as well. ForGG again, he's going for the base trade, but there are High Templars. It's very important that MaNa right now doesn't make any aggressive warpins. Don't try to get yourself in a position where you're broke.
Defensive DTs, Roddy, slicing this army apart for MaNa as ForGG runs into the storms. The aggressive blink on top of this force, and there's nothing left for the Terran player. Down to 80 supply. GG! MaNa takes game number 1.
Wow, and in what style did he take game number 1, Nate? It wasn't even a flawless start. He didn't even take 0 damage from those mines or something. But like you said, he took a risk by going up to 3 bases when he did. And I don't know how he did it, man. He defended everywhere. The main, the natural, the 3rd base. He had very few observers out on the map. One of them even got sniped. But somehow, some way, his Stalkers and Colossus, he always had a perfect mix of how much to send to the west and how much to send to the east.
Yeah, it was an absolutely beautifully played game by MaNa, perfectly splitting his forces between all of his bases. And you see our wonderful crowd here going wild as the poll picks up game 1.
And we said it, man, it's Coda, and it must feel so good to win on Coda, because Coda is just a very fair, straight-up map. Doesn't necessarily favor one race or the other. MaNa just shown, even in a game where my start is not phenomenal, where my start is not flawless, I can still bring it back. That must give him so much confidence.
Yeah, especially, you know, you have so much fighting for in front of his crowd, in front of his home country, to play a game that well. If you're ForGG, well, I mean, if you opened up aggressively like that, he got a good amount of damage done with the mines. That's not the worst case scenario as a Terran player. And now you're suddenly thinking, what do I do next?
The amount of lost mining time that MaNa had early on Coda, the amount of workers he lost, 10, 11-ish, and a couple Stalkers that he lost as well, that is an opening that ForGG would sign for. If you give him that scenario in the start of the game, he'd say like, yeah, I'd love to play from that position. We're both on 37 workers, you've used Photon Overcharge a couple times, your tech is delayed. Yeah, come on, bring it on. That's great for me as a Terran player, but MaNa, he's kept his head calm. Very impressed, very strong game 1 by MaNa.
Yeah, Terraform will be mapped too, and just, you know, ForGG making that play only off 2 bases made it even more impressive. He had so many more drops to work with, but surviving that. And hey, how about that risky fast 3rd that we talked about? MaNa, who's in a really vulnerable position, taking that 3rd base.
I know, it's actually a great decision in the end. It's a very hard call to make. A lot of Protoss players would say this is suicide, right? Like, how can I defend everywhere at once? Well, MaNa, with very little observers, he still managed to do it. I'm definitely blown away, must give him a lot of momentum, but it is a best of 5, so there is plenty to play left. Second map is going to be on Terraform. I would say, once again, Nate, a pretty damn fair map.
Yeah, this is another one of those solid ones. The 3rd base is a little bit out there. It's going to be tricky to see if ForGG can bring those drop plays back to fruition, as we are ready. We are loaded in to kick off game 2 of our 2nd semifinal. You're watching the World Championship Series Premier League. And in the northwest position of Terraform, we have the blue Terran from Team Millennium. He's ForGG! And his opponent in the southeast position, the Polish Protoss player from Team Liquid. Give a cheer for MaNa!
Two players that have been around in the StarCraft 2 scene for a long, long time. MaNa has had ups and downs in his careers. Perhaps one of the biggest ups he's ever had was in 2011, Nate, where he won ESWC in the final against ForGG. But that's such a long time ago, even though that is also something you will never forget. You know, when you face the same opponent many years later, be like, I remember the last time when we played on a very big stage. Of course, they've had their encounters over the years. MaNa has a positive winning record, by the way, against ForGG. But that was the biggest series up to date, and that must give him something, you know, to hold on to as well. You know, I've defeated you before, where everything was on the line.
Yeah, it's just crazy to think with so much at stake. ForGG winning this series would put him in a spot where he could manage to qualify for the global finals at BlizzCon. MaNa playing in front of his home country, he's got a little bit of a rougher time in that department, but still, this is just so much, and $30,000 too, nothing to scoff at.
No, not at all. And I like how you said for ForGG, the BlizzCon dream is still so alive. And who could have thought that, Nate? After his Season 2 performance, where he lost in the round of 16, and we were all a little bit critical of ForGG, he bounced back, and he had a very tough group as well in the round of 16. Lil Bao and Jaedong. Most people actually thought that Jaedong was going to be able to take him out. As ForGG, we kind of thought, you know, he's not the same ForGG anymore. Well, he proved us wrong. He played phenomenal in the quarterfinals against Bolt. And like you said, still so much to fight for as well. MaNa is mining a lot of gas over here, by the way, Nate, in the opening game number 2.
Yeah, there's no probe out on the map, so we won't have any proxy shenanigans, but you're right, it's going to open up the possibility for him to move into whatever tech path he wants a little bit faster. And for ForGG, it's just another standard Reaper opening, but he's mining a lot of gas, so we might see another mine drop too.
Well, he has seen this. ForGG has seen, of course, the same thing as we have, and he's probably a little bit confused. He's like, what are you going to do with all that gas? You know, there's a Mothership Core out. Soon he's going to see that there is a Stalker as well. A Stalker and a Mothership Core before the Nexus. That is just pretty uncommon, and there we do see that Stargate going down. And I'm very curious to see what he's going to follow it up with. ForGG already thrown down a bunker, by the way. I'm a little bit worried.
Yeah, I mean,
can't blame him.
As a Terran player in this position, you see the Stalker opening with the Mothership Core, no Nexus. You're a little bit worried it could be, you know, a Roddy build where you all of a sudden have 2 Stalkers at your base poking you, and Marines alone aren't going to do that.
Very good build, Nate.
Yeah, strong and scary as the factory starts to finish up for ForGG. And there's the expansion for MaNa. So Oracle, I'd imagine, try to do some harass, maybe follow up with Phoenix?
Yeah, could be, but I am expecting an Oracle, because most of the time if you want to go Phoenix, there's no reason for you to get your Stargate before the Nexus, so it kind of has to be an Oracle opening. Reaper gets killed, and that's very nice. Of course, it's very hard for a Reaper to get the scouting done on Terraform because of this pylon that our awesome dedicated observer Fonka is showing us. The Reaper has to go via the main entrance, and with the Stalker and a Mothership Core, there's just no way that Reaper is going to see what it wants to see. But of course, ForGG probably has a good idea. It could be a Twilight, it could be Blink Stalkers, it could be a Dark Shrine, but it could also be a Stargate, and that's still very common.
Yeah, so as a Terran player, one of the few things that you can do in this position if you don't want to open with an engineering bay is to try to use these Widow Mines in a defensive spot. So he needs to be very careful. MaNa adding on 3 gates too.
Look where that mine is going, Nate. Okay, it's actually going very far forward. He's going to try to perhaps intercept the Oracle. He's going to miss it. This is going to open up a window, right? That's the only mine that's out there. There's only 8 Marines out on the map. Let's see if MaNa's going to be able to find the sweet spot here and pick off a couple of SCVs. ForGG has read this so far as a Blink Stalker build, Nate. In my opinion, because he got the tech lab as well. Yeah. I really think he thought about Blink Stalkers. That's why he was moving the mine forward to the side blockers, because the Stalkers normally run through the side blockers, and then that mine is going to shoot at it. I think ForGG misread this a tiny bit.
He did have his Marines in a good position to defend the Oracle. 6 Marines will win that fight head-to-head. But that Stalker, as you pointed out, Kev, will be walking into very dangerous territory in the next couple seconds.
I mean, MaNa did throw down multiple gateways, and he's actually not building any workers, so ForGG is still reading this correctly in a weird way, where it is going to be gateway aggression after all. Oh god, there is that Widow Mine. Like I said, Stalkers always run through those side blockers, and that's very nice for ForGG. That's going to feel so good for him, realizing that he's made a correct call. Second bunker going down. ForGG is so on top of the money, and I have a very, very hard time imagining a world where this push is going to finish off ForGG, unless MaNa just drops the absolute best force fields we've seen. And to be honest, Nate, we've seen some pretty damn good force fields this tournament.
That's right. We have 3 sentries complementing this force, trying to move in No Zealots, though, really puts the emphasis on those force fields. But I still think at the same time with concussive shells done, it's very risky if he pushes this. Once the second bunker completes, I don't think he can break him. There's one good force field, grabs a Marauder. Still, though, he cut a lot of economy to do this.
One Stalker starts taking a lot of damage immediately. A couple of these Stalkers are going to fall. Oracle's coming in, though, to pick up a couple of the SCVs, but good focus fire by ForGG, and there is no way ForGG is going to die over here.
Yeah, MaNa immediately begins chrono boosting probes out, and as a Terran player, you are feeling fantastic. He's ahead in workers, and with the mules, he's mining a lot more resources in this position. The big question now becomes, how does he move forward? His stim is a bit late because he went for concussive shell, and he doesn't actually have a starport, so drops are out of the question for now.
The time is not the enemy, though, because the Protoss is stuck on Gateway and Stargate tag. There is no robotics facility, there is no Twilight console there. Excellent game sense by ForGG. MaNa, he was probably hoping for ForGG to go for a very similar build to what we saw in game number 1, where he opened up Reaper, went Widow Mines and tried to fly them to the other side of the map, or Marine Widow Mines, and then the build that MaNa is going for is actually extremely powerful, because ForGG has very few forces at home, because he invests in a starport, he invests in a medevac. This time ForGG didn't do that. That's why he had so many bio units, and that's why he made it look easy.
Yeah, as you said, that almost misread of a Blink Stalker build ended up benefiting him at the end of the day. Robotics Bay is coming in for MaNa, so we'll see him move back towards that Colossus tech. But even this, his Probot on the map gets snapped. ForGG already starting so much better than he did before, which does feel kind of weird considering he killed about 10 probes with his mine drop on map 1.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was still good, though, but this is probably feeling really good. Just like you said, the only thing that's kind of late is the whole medevac, department. He doesn't have a single medevac out yet on the map. The first 2 are in production. So MaNa is able to buy a little bit of time for himself. If I'm MaNa right here, Nate, I'm gonna stay in 2 bases for a long time. I thought that was the right idea on Coda, but he ignored it, and that was a brilliant call. But this time, with the tech structures that he has down right now, with the Colossus and the Phoenix he's aiming for, I'd even say go double forge on 2 bases. Why not, right?
Yeah, he does need to pick a strategy that will allow him to defend against this massive economic advantage that ForGG's had. The Oracle's going to run out, keep it its eyes. Yeah, Revelation tags those medevacs. This is really nice for MaNa. When you consider the resource investments he's made, this is really going to allow him to spot and defend these drops more when he doesn't have as many forces as he'd like.
Yep, he of course has those Phoenixes. What MaNa is hoping for is ForGG is going to burrow this mine to prevent one probe from sneaking up and going up to 3 bases. What MaNa is hoping for is an overcommitment over here by ForGG. If MaNa has 1 Colossus, a few Zealots and Sentries, with the Phoenixes, he's going to be able to take care of these 2 medevacs. If ForGG picks up all his units, they are kind of committed. But this is so smart, by the way, for ForGG. He's going to work on these pylons and perhaps even a gateway from the low ground.
Wow, unpowering 3 gateways of MaNa, and he can even start to pick these up. Brilliant. And he has to be, he does have to be careful of the Phoenix who get these medevacs. The Colossus is coming over as well, so limiting the retreat path. Force field sees Marines in, but there's the Phoenix, and he's just going to go right into the main base.
Sick focus fight there by ForGG, man. He got 2 out of 3 Phoenixes immediately. The 4th Phoenix is out on the map right now, but ForGG couldn't have done that any better. On powering those gates, sniping the Phoenixes, that was some really high-level play.
Yeah, ForGG stepping up, killing a few Stalkers too, even though he's boxed into the main base. If he lifts up, the Phoenix can chase, but even that loads into the full health medevac. This allows him to move away and unload those forces and run.
Absolutely phenomenal trade. He's in the natural as well. He's hitting from the south, hitting from the north, Nate. He's everywhere.
Yeah, he's hitting from the north and the south, going into the natural mineral line, and here come the Colossi. Tries to pick one up, not able to get it. Lifts up the Marauder, though, so he buys himself some time, but ForGG has the 3rd base now. It's complete, and with that, it's going to get even more difficult. Drop coming back to the main.
That's so sick as well. ForGG unloads on top of that mine, and that mine killed the Phoenix. ForGG is actually playing pretty much a flawless game here on Terraform. Take a look at units lost resource tab. It's 1,800 against 3,200. That's ridiculous for a Terran versus Protoss.
Yeah, he's been very cost-effective in this game, and as we saw in the last map, ForGG has some non-stop aggressive tendencies, and if you can't get that 3rd base, you can't afford to get all those Stalkers spread out, you're in a world of pain.
ForGG is definitely the type of Terran that if things start going well for him, he's gonna drive his Protoss opponent insane, man. We were joking here across the desk, but us commentators were about 0-26 against ForGG because he always gets ahead against us, and he's a beast. The moment you give him a little bit of wiggle room, you give him some room to play and get his build going, He's just everywhere at once. MaNa's gonna try to stabilize here, but he took so much damage, Nate. I don't know what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, definitely don't want to let him get in his zone. The Phoenix come out here, and there's a lot of units in position for MaNa. Grabs one full medevac prior to them depositing, but there's just so much here for ForGG. Fulton Overcharge gets activated. He steps forward. He's trying to pick off these forces. The Colossi are here, though, and with these Phoenix, he's actually getting a lot of work done to this Terran army.
Yep, and these mines actually didn't connect with anything. MaNa did a phenomenal job there in defending that, but he's still on 2 bases. ForGG is still preventing MaNa from going up to 3 bases. That annoying Widow Mine is still there that prevents this probe from trying to even drop a Nexus, and MaNa is still very, very blind. So even though MaNa did a great job in deflecting that drop, ForGG is outmining him. ForGG is more than happy to throw away a couple units here and there, because look at his income, Nate. 1800 minerals a minute. He's outmining him in the gas department as well. I like the way that ForGG is playing this game.
MaNa's just moving out across the map, man. This massive army with 4 Colossi. It's powerful, but it's going to be really difficult for him to actually take this fight.
It is definitely going to be difficult, but one thing, those forces are good. Medevac's going down. There are no Vikings on the map, Nate. ForGG is going to work on these rocks. MaNa has to be very careful. Poor mine.
He killed his own mine.
Well, we know about friendly fire off mines, but not in that regard. That's the first for me, Nate.
Yeah, I love the way he positioned them, though. He's saying if you try to charge through this choke point, you will also get hit by these Widow Mines. Taking out one of the Phoenix, too, as Vikings are coming out 4 at a time now. There's a clock on this for MaNa.
Yep, MaNa has to go pretty much immediately. It's so difficult, though, because he knows that ForGG is setting himself up in a beautiful concave there. He's going to spread out all those bio units, and as a Protoss, you just can't run through that little choke point. These mines, Nate. Oh, okay, he's going to spot it in time. That could have been very, very ugly, especially if the Observer was out of position. But that Viking count, there's a world of difference between 0 or 6 Vikings already. This Colossus count, though, that's ridiculous. 5 Colossus against 6 Vikings. That's normally a dream scenario, but still, ForGG is ahead in army supply. He's ahead when it comes to economy. Every second is a second that's good for ForGG. It has to happen right here and right now for MaNa.
MaNa moves in. Great force fields on the left side. SCVs are coming off the line to help fight against this as well. First Colossus gets knocked down. There's still 4 remaining. 3 Colossi stand as the Stalkers try to get these Vikings, but there's just so many of them. Only 1 Colossus left for MaNa, and ForGG is plowing through this, but he's lost all of his Marines and Marauders on the ground.
Wow, indeed. ForGG did lose a lot, but all the Colossus are down. The Vikings will be landed. A lot of the supply, though, is in Vikings and Medevac. Can MaNa actually make this work with unupgraded gateway units against Stim Bionate? Is this real life?
SCVs are coming off the natural mineral line. The bunker's down. Stalkers pick off a Viking more and more.
Oh my God.
Out as the Medevacs try to stop this, try to stifle this push out of MaNa.
There are 6 Marauders and 5 Marines out on the map. MaNa has to focus fire these Marauders, because that count has to stay low. He's losing a lot of his gateway units right now. Bio units are so effective against Zealots without charge and Stalkers without blink.
Yeah, these Marines and Marauders can kite this army all day as MaNa put up such a good fight here in map 2, but that Widow Mine even grabbing the last of his forces out on the map, and as a 2-base Protoss, those mines are still blocking his other bases. I don't know if he can do it.
Well, that got very close, actually. There was a moment where all that ForGG had in non-Vikings or Medevacs was 4 Marauders, and if those Marauders would have started dying one by one, it could have got very, very ugly. But ForGG did a really good job in protecting those Marauders. Then he got up to 6 Marauders and 5 Marines, and that just changes everything. That's suddenly a whole lot more firepower to deal with slow Zealots.
As a Terran player, when you know the Protoss is stuck on 2, oh my goodness!
Wow.
That hurts.
Yep. That hurts my Protoss hard, Nate.
When you know the Protoss has that economy, it's okay to throw your SCVs away because they're not building that much after an attack like that.
ForGG is incredibly effective with his mines, man. He just puts them in the weirdest spots and you just don't expect it. That's why in the round of 16, I thought that game on Coda, Lilbao did a phenomenal job in somehow, some way, always having observers. Because ForGG, he's very active about killing observers as well. I think that's his #1 pleasure in this matchup, just killing observers and letting his mines do the dirty work.
It does feel good to blind the Protoss, Roddy, and that just makes it so much more difficult, especially with all the forces he's had running around. And this next Widow Mine could even possibly pick off a few more of his units. This is going to hurt so much.
I mean, MaNa is learning a lot from this, though. This is not even a bad experience right now, because it's safe to say this game on Terraform, there is no way that MaNa is going to win with this army, but he learned a very valuable lesson.
He's going to be a lot more worried of the mines as this series continues forward. ForGG pushing through this choke point, crushes that army, and GG is called. We've got a tied series here, 1-1.
Yeah, ForGG playing an absolutely awesome game here. on Terraform, man. From start to finish, Nate, I loved it all. He saw so little, it's hard to scout on Terraform, but he made the correct calls. He threw down that bunker, threw down the second bunker, delayed the starport. That is the biggest, the biggest moment of all of them. Doing that allowed him to get a few more units out there, and he was just not going to die against the silly Oracle into gateway push.
Yeah, relative to all standard builds, ForGG made a very unusual choice in terms of the way he set himself up, and that was based on what he scouted. He's a very intelligent player with the amount of games that he plays every day. You see everything.
Yep.
And him, he's got all these different plans lined out. Like, you know, it's like, okay, well, barracks are going to help me a lot more than medevacs at this point.
Yeah, but I can't really emphasize on how impressive that truly is, because we see everything, and Nate, as a Terran player yourself, if you saw what MaNa was doing, you couldn't have done anything better than what ForGG was doing. Maybe the only thing is he had that tech lab very early on. I think he was a tiny bit worried about maybe Blink Stalkers, but of course the tech lab also allowed him to build Marauders very quickly, and Marauders are always good against gateway pushes. Whether Stalkers have Blink or not, Marauders are awesome. Concussive Shells are great. He just made all the correct calls without a single scan, without the Reaper getting into the main base. That's just crazy game sense, man.
Yeah, and we are going to be playing the next map on Moonlight Madness, Roddy. This is not a map we have seen a whole lot of. I'm just hyped for this map alone right now.
I'm pretty sure this is the first time the entire week here that we've been in Poland. 4 groups of the round of 16 and the quarterfinals and the semifinals. This is the very first time we see Moonlight Madness. Nate, why is this the first time we see Moonlight Madness?
Well, if you're a Protoss player especially, I can imagine you having nightmares about all the different places that a Terran player can drop you. You have rocks in the back, you have rocks in your main base, and there's so many different ways that you can be afflicted with that highly aggressive playstyle. And we've even seen Protoss players do weird stuff against Terran on this map.
In general, what marks a great Terran map is, of course, if there is dead airspace behind the main, you know, behind the north of the natural or whatever. Any place that medevacs can just chill and wait for the Protoss to move out, that is a good Terran map. But this is also, it's an okay Protoss map, especially for a couple of those strong 2-base pushes, Nate. And there are a lot of places for very dirty pylons to go down, which also makes it a map that can be very tricky for a Terran to play.
Yeah, and it'll be so exciting to see how they play this map that we never really see here in the World Championship Series. It's Game 3, and we are getting ready. We are loaded into Moonlight Madness in the bottom left position, spawning as the blue Terran from Team Millennium. He's ForGG. Getting equal cheers as his opponent, our Polish Protoss in the northeast, representing Team Liquid, he's MaNa!
What a run both of these players have had so far. Of course it goes for ForGG, but especially for this man who was down 0-2 in Challenger, Nate. Can you believe that? Being down 0-2 in Challenger, somehow turning it around and then making it into the semi-finals of WCS Premier League. That's something I don't think we've ever seen before. I don't think anyone has ever made it to the semi-finals that was actually down 0-2 in Challenger.
Yeah, truly an impressive run he's had, even considering that down 0-2 that he had yesterday against Betrayus, bringing it back against one of the players that really looked unstoppable in the long game and made really good build order choices to swing things back in his favor, to retake momentum in that series.
Yep, MaNa's going to send out a probe because this is also a map where there are a bit, let's say there are about 1,000 locations where you could potentially proxy stuff. That goes for Protoss, but that even goes for Terran. There are a couple of very weird Terran builds out there. Sometimes, especially because Protoss in this day and age likes to go Gateway, Nexus, Twilight. If there is then a proxy factory with a very quick Widow Mine that runs into your mineral line, this could become very, very tricky as a Protoss to play as well. So I think it's rather smart that MaNa scouts here. He sees the gas, he knows there's a Reaper on the way. It is a very quick scout though, Nate.
Yeah.
It's almost...
Perhaps he was worried also about, as you mentioned, this being a pretty good proxy map. And since it's not played as much as other maps, usually that causes some players to lean better towards the cheese just because you don't have all the experience of playing this fully fleshed out macro games.
MaNa is mining a lot of gas so far, very similar to what we saw on Terraform. Of course, on Terraform we saw that Stargate opening. For now, this probe is just cruising around. You don't want to lose this probe against the Reaper. ForGG is very good in sniffing out probes that are on the map. Once he's seen one, somehow, some way he finds it. It's like he has a radar, man. It's like hot, 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 hot.
Yeah, I mean,
starts peeping faster.
he's looking for the proxy.
Oh,
He's
man.
this isn't even the best map as far as Reapers going straight into the main base goes, but checking around a Ninja probe, trying to run back towards the natural. This is really important if he sees what the follow-up is, because this time it will be a barracks.
Oh, that probe has to run into the main immediately, but MaNa is most likely not going to see that, Nate.
Ah, no scout. This is a really big deal. If he was going for the factory play again, MaNa needs a completely different follow-up.
Oh, man.
Stargate openings can be a little bit tricky against 3 racks.
Yep, very, very tricky. 3x is a build that has fallen out of fashion a little bit because the maps have been getting bigger and bigger as well. And if a Protoss player is aware that this is going on, it's very easy. You get a couple sentries, you get a Zealots in the mix, maybe the safety Immortal, and then you can actually follow it up with any sort of Colossus push, and you're in good shape. MaNa right now doesn't know about this, and if you just take a look at the rush distance from natural to natural for ForGG to MaNa, that's not insane, Nate. That's not as crazy as a Cactus Valley or whatever. And for a strong three racks opening over here, this could become very tricky for MaNa.
Yeah, especially if ForGG opts for one of the more aggressive choices that some players like Bunny have been doing. That concussive shell play is so scary if you get caught out, because this Oracle didn't even get scouted. ForGG, phenomenal start to this game just for him already.
Yep, MaNa does pick up the Reaper, so that is something to work with. But if I'm ForGG, Nate, I'm not even waiting for a combat shield over here. Exactly, I'm just getting concussive shells immediately and start going across the map. Of course, ForGG does need a missile turret. If you want to be aggressive with 3 racks, you need some defenses at home, especially if the Protoss would go crazy and maybe go double Oracle. It could become very annoying. It's very important for MaNa that he figures this one out as quick as possible. Oh man, look at this opening, Nate. It's Gate, Stargate, Robo. MaNa is going to have very, very few units, which is going to force him to drop Photon Overcharge extremely early. He has to. It's going to be a Phoenix follow-up as well. I'm actually not even 100% sure what's the right thing right now for MaNa.
He canceled the Phoenix, so he's not even sure himself. And as that Oracle swings by towards the natural, the missile turret's going to complete. And this Nexus in a very vulnerable spot.
He's going to get a couple of SCVs maybe here, and that's cute, that's great. But MaNa, you need to see those 3 Rexes. You need to see what's going on over here.
Yeah, once you spot this, I think that's when you suddenly get a little bit of fear in your heart. You know the Terran player has more than enough Marine production to deal with your Oracle, and then some. Photon Overcharge is cast. He can't push the ramp. There's a sentry. At least one force field will buy him some time.
I'm just worried about the next push. Robo base going down immediately. So MaNa is basically saying, I can buy enough time with force fields after this one, as long as I get 1 Colossus. Again, with this opening by ForGG, the factory is very late. Medevacs is going to be so much later. And if you want to counterattack against a Protoss that pushes you on 2 base with Colossus, you need Medevacs, you need mobility. So as long as MaNa doesn't take crazy damage here, this quick Colossus attempt that he's going for could become very, very powerful. But he needs to make sure he has enough force fields to work with, Nate.
Yeah, it's going to be very tricky as the Photon Overcharge runs out. There's so many Marines in this army. The force field can buy him time. That's the best thing. He can hold the main base, but the probes in the natural are still a bit vulnerable.
I actually think he could have just force fielded his natural himself, Nate. With 2 force fields, you make it very hard for Marines to squeeze by already. He almost has enough energy for Photon Overcharge, but not yet. Can't lose the Mothership Core. Oh my god. Was on a 98 energy. He can drop Photon Overcharge now. Drop force fields.
He needs to be very careful. Every bit of energy on these sentries is so valuable as that Terran army is pushed back. Trades away 6 probes for his life. Not bad.
I don't
we have
mind
a Colossus on the way.
Yeah, exactly. I don't mind it all that much. As MaNa has his first Colossus on the way, he's still only on 1 gateway. I really think that could have been worse. That could have been more ugly. We said it already, Nate. That starport is very late. Normally, as a Protoss player, your first Colossus is out while the starport is not even done yet. Like, well, yeah. I love that.
It's a nice spot to be in as these Marines are so squishy, so vulnerable to the Colossus splash, especially without combat shields. If he stims once without medevacs, his army's going to die real fast.
He has to be careful, as long as MaNa takes care of his Colossus, of course, because the Colossus is the only unit here that deals damage. He needs to make sure that he's on top of his Colossus micro. It's a little bit exposed. Force fields go down. He's going to go for the defensive force fields. I wouldn't have mind letting in a couple of units here and there, you know, just cutting them off and get a couple of guaranteed kills, but I guess you'd rather be safe than sorry.
And important things to note, ForGG is still just set up off of 2 bases. No sign of a 3rd command center yet. He has SCVs positioned to possibly add on more racks. No, he's just going to go for another starport. This could be like an SCV pull style.
Could be it, Nate, but he could also just be very, very worried about the 2 base all in from MaNa, knowing how late his Colossus is, or excuse me, how late his starport was, and how early the Colossus is. If you have no Vikings, it becomes extremely tricky to defend against a big Colossus push. So I think that ForGG is just making a correct call over here and saying, I want to get Vikings out ASAP.
Yeah, nice use of Revelation, keeping tabs on the Terran army in case he were to try to use any drops to use misdirection and get around him. But Twilight Council follow-up, he's going to get Blink, and MaNa's just taking it nice and slow. I really like that he's kept this Oracle alive, even if it wasn't able to kill SCVs.
No, that's very important. Dropping Revelation, knowing where these bio units are, just makes your life so much easier. MaNa is going for 3 bases over here, and that indeed could force ForGG into the SCV pool scenario.
Now this is going to be very interesting as ForGG has 4 Vikings being built at a time. He still has not added on any extra infrastructure for expanding. He hasn't taken an armory, he hasn't added a 3rd command center. He's just going to keep piling on Vikings and might be looking for a killing blow soon.
Yep, let's not forget that even though ForGG opened up with a lot of bio units, he kept all of them alive, as Fonka is showing right now. 67 army supply already, Nate. Colossus are phenomenal against his army at the moment, but he didn't really lose a whole lot. ForGG's push is going to be very, very scary. And for MaNa, it's so important that he finds that 2nd Stargate. He's going to see there's no 3 bases over here, and that should already give him a small red alert sign. But he needs to verify that ForGG is actually on double starport already, super early. This was like 10-minute double starport. That's uncommon.
Yeah, he really needs to get that blink out. That's going to be so instrumental in positioning against those Vikings to keep the Colossi alive so they can barbecue that Terran army.
And even force fields, man. It's very important that MaNa has plenty of force fields to keep these bio units at bay. When those Vikings fly in, you want to only fight the Vikings. You want to send your Colossus back as far as possible, and you want your Stalkers to kill those Vikings. That's what you want right now. MaNa, as Oracle, is going to fly into the main base. And this is, I think, the first time he's going to see this Viking fleet. No, he's not going to see it yet, but perhaps he just knows already, Nate.
Yeah, here come the SCVs. ForGG is looking to end this game right here, right now. Possibly moving up to 1 in this best of 5. He's putting everything on the line right here, right now. There's the revelation. He knows where the bio is. He'll also see the SCVs as they come up too because of this.
Yeah, well, there's still a couple of units out of position. Actually, all of the units from MaNa are in the 3rd base. This is terrible, Nate. MaNa's not aware of this yet. I think now he suddenly realizes that, hey, this is very scary. Force fields go down. He's going to sacrifice the entire low ground. Well, if he kills all the Vikings, this might be okay. 1 Colossus goes down, 2nd Colossus doesn't fall yet, even though 2 of them are very low on HP.
Yeah, he's starting to get some hits on these low ground forces with the Colossi. The Viking count has been trimmed significantly, but he's lost that natural expansion. He's running out of energy. He can't force field this army away.
If these bio units enter the main base, then it's pretty much all over. He needs something. He's going to warp in the Templar Archives. I'm not sure if he cancelled it, so maybe we're going to see an Archon or 2, but I would really love to see force fields. Actually, he lost a lot there. Also losing +2 armor does give him a few extra resources to work with. Of course, this is super all-in for ForGG, but he hasn't lost a whole lot yet, Nate.
Yeah, he's warping in Archons right now as we speak. Another Colossus is on the way. He has to kill this army if he wants to win the game. Here he comes up the ramp. He's charging him right here, right now. First Colossus is dead. Second one stepping back as the Archons arrive, and these Vikings can start to land and contribute to this fight. Another force field locks this army, and the bio is so weak in this position. Another Colossus.
Oh my God!
The army's choked up at the ramp. He's pushing it back. He's cleaned up the army. MaNa holds.
Big Daddy Colossus shows up in time. MaNa does hold for now. He lost a lot of workers though. We can see 21 workers, and mules are fantastic, but MaNa stays alive. And I must say, compliments there to ForGG as well, Nate, for knowing when to back off. Because I think unless a Terra player there would push the issue, would end up losing their Vikings, would end up losing these low HP units. And then suddenly Protoss is in a pretty okay shape. But ForGG, the experienced veteran Terran that he is, he's like, whoa, a Colossus? Archons? Okay, it's time to get the hell out of here. I did a lot of damage. Time to recollect myself.
Yeah, those Archons were so important in pushing that back. You cannot fight those with SCVs, especially since the medevacs had all either died or run out of energy. He couldn't heal any of those forces. They were all in the orange health, and that really allowed him to cleave through that army so much faster than normal.
Yep, ForGG is mining a lot of minerals. He's not mining any gas anymore because he had so much banked up. Putting everything in minerals. He's going to try his luck one more time. Vikings a little bit exposed. Stalkers with a forward blink.
That'd be a bit risky. Does not want to get tagged by those concussive shells with that blink on cooldown. And ForGG's army is going to chase him to push him back. Keep in mind, though, I do believe he still has those rocks to buy him a little bit of time, so he's not super worried about running those stalkers around.
No photon overcharge, by the way, Nate. And I actually think when armies are this small in perspective, you know, around 70-ish supply, I think photon overcharge is a pretty damn big deal. There are very few zealots in this mix as well, while the Marauder count is at 14. Of course, Archons are great, but if those 2 Archons fall, the rest of the army of MaNa is made out of paper.
Yeah, this is going to be really tricky. There's the big stam. He picks off one Viking, getting ready to move in, attack his own army for a second there. And here he comes. He really needs to hold this base. This is everything right now for MaNa, trying to keep this game alive, trying to keep his dreams alive.
6 Vikings against 2 Colossus. 1 more Colossus on the way, though. 4 more Vikings on the way as well. Medevacs have a lot of energy. All these Vikings are full HP. Every volley counts so much. The Vikings, are they going to follow here? The Nexus is taking quite a bit of damage.
Yeah, he moved and he tried to focus the Nexus for a little bit, but the Stalkers are getting on top of the Vikings. The Colossus is still alive. There's the force field. He's pulled him in. He's trying to run forward and stuck the Colossus, but he's not going to get it. Colossus is still alive. Archon in the back. The army is being pushed back. So that's another medevac. The rally continues to move in, but another Colossus has arrived to the battlefield. 2 more Vikings show up trying to get that last hit. He gets it. Just 1 Colossus standing to hold the fort, and he's going to clean this army up. It looks like he can do it. Just needs to stay a little bit further back. He plays forward. He gets most of the army, and ForGG retreats again.
Yeah, but this was so good, though. This time I think it was so important for MaNa to stay alive there, and he did stay alive. He still has his Templar Archives as well. He can always get another Archon or 2. This was great, and let's not forget that ForGG has been dropping a lot of mines. So yes, both of them are, excuse me, mules. Both of them have been low in economy, but ForGG is gonna mine out way faster than MaNa.
Yeah, having that pressure base to be working from has really helped MaNa, and now he's gonna retake that base. And if he can secure this, he's got this. ForGG, we talked about it, his setup, his infrastructure was never really designed or geared for the long game. Just 2 starports and 3 barracks.
No armory, no 2-2 upgrades for anything, no upgrades on the Vikings either. It was supposed to end 2 pushes ago, Nate, if not that previous push. Every single time MaNa survives, he gets so much stronger.
Now, this is a really great spot to be in. This army has reached its full-fledged form, and this will be so difficult for him to deal with.
Yep, there's no need for MaNa to go out there right now. He can, of course, run around with Stalkers as long as you don't do anything crazy with them. Charge is on the way, and that's such a big upgrade as well. I think it's safe to say, Nate, if Charge finishes up and MaNa gets 6, 8, 10 Zealots with a couple of Colossus and the Archons, this Bio army with only 1 upgrades, it's going to get shredded.
Yeah, the only thing that really hurt, of course, not being able to get that +2, but even then, it still paid for the Archon in the earlier phase, so in a weird roundabout way, not having those upgrades have really helped him. But here it comes, 1 more time. ForGG's firing up the engines, trying to bring this game back with 1 more push. The Stalkers see this army moving out, trying to grab a quick Viking, but forced to blink back already, going to trade away as much as possible.
Yep, 1 unit there for nothing. That's good enough for MaNa for now. He knows that all the boys will be pulled this time. I think every Archon he can get right now is phenomenal. I think Archons are so good against everything that ForGG has. He has 2 Archons, that's awesome, but if one of them is like does something derpy and it dies, it becomes tricky again. I would love to see 1 more Archon at least, and if he can get 2 more Archons, that would be phenomenal. But I think this is going to be it. The probes are going to be pulled perhaps as well, or is MaNa just going to evacuate?
And he's just going to evacuate. He took the base on the southeast. He says, okay, I'm still building a better army than you. With time, my army gets better. Charge is done now too.
And ForGG can never run up that ramp, Nate. ForGG has to go all the way to the other run again. There's no way he can go through these rocks. That's way too risky. MaNa should take these gases. He's supply blocked for a tiny bit. ForGG can't go up that ramp. There are sentries as well, Nate.
Yeah, I love it. Just trading away at these forces, picking them off. He's going to knock those rocks down, but that base doesn't matter for MaNa. ForGG has no follow-up. He'll be lifting off his main command center soon if he wants to continue mining in this game.
Yep, there is no Mothership Core, but I guess it doesn't really matter. 2 more High Templars being wiped in. That 1 extra Archon. I love it. I think this is looking absolutely phenomenal for MaNa. Whenever you have Charge, when you have Archons, you have Sentries and Colossus, you should be able to take care of Bio without Ghost.
Yeah, and he's going to move right in on this army. The Colossi get taken down, though. ForGG getting a bit of a good position. He's got a lot of army still left. That Zealot count getting shredded very quickly. He's got most of the SCVs dead, though. He's holding this high ground position.
Very few medevacs remaining, Nate, and these Archons are still alive, and this is a very Marauder-heavy army, and these Marauders are going to have a very hard time taking out these Archons. And look at those 3 Anchor Immortals as well, man. They're going to have a good time.
ForGG lands his Vikings. He's going to try to do it right here, right now. There's the force field. Locks in that army, pulling it back. Once again, if you want to attack, you have to commit all the way. And ForGG, he just can't get a good position on this army.
No, but let's not forget, ForGG is barely mining. Every second that goes by, MaNa has 2 bases up and running, or well, the first one is pretty much mined out, but still getting gas from it, a few minerals here and there. This is all good for MaNa. Every second that goes by is very good for MaNa.
Yep, especially since he can regenerate shields on those Archons that he's taking a bit of heat from.
Man, a few boys didn't want to go to war, but they're forced, man. It's like desperate times call for desperate measures.
The last of the SCVs will be pulled as ForGG tries 1 more time to get in position on this army, but this choke point, this rip, it's suicide.
This is Moonlight Madness, man. There are a lot of ramps. It's very hard to get up there. ForGG knows he truly has to commit. He's gonna go for it. Arcos are a tiny bit exposed, but they've got so much HP, Nate.
One more big stand as ForGG storms up the ramp. The Immortals in the back having a bit of a hard time shooting. There's the last of the force fields, trying to hold this army at bay as the blink backs continue, and ForGG's army is rapidly dwindling in supply. MaNa's holding. MaNa's killing ForGG right here, right now, and he's completely crushed it. Blinks forward. He's gonna clean up and take game number 3.
What a game on Moonlight Madness. Definitely not easy, but great crisis management there by MaNa from start to finish. Was up against a very rough build, I think, with his build, but just did almost everything right. Only losing 6 probes in the beginning. That first hold against the Vikings, that second hold near the third base, you know, losing the natural, taking the third, losing the third, going back to your natural. What a game.
Such hard, difficult choices to make for MaNa, but playing that as well as you possibly could. And really, we talk about this again, an opening where MaNa was in a little bit of a tricky spot. He didn't get any damage done. He lost probes, but still managed to bring it back when it counted most.
Up 2-1 right now against ForGG. These two players, they know, you know, they've played against each other before with a lot on the line, but never in the semi-final of WCS Premier League. The next map is going to be played on Iron Fortress. It's a pretty friendly map out there for Terran, so I think ForGG is probably looking at this like, well, I expected myself to win Iron Fortress in the start of the series.
Yeah, this will be another scary map for dealing with those drops as Terran players.
Wow.
I mean, I would say I like this map a lot. I mean, we've seen a lot of two-base play from Protosses as they prepared for it, but still, it's such an important series. There's still so much on the line for both of these guys.
I'm actually a little bit surprised, man. 11 against 6 in favor of Protoss. That's not something I would have expected here on Iron Fortress. Perhaps something that MaNa can put some extra confidence out of, but does this man really need more confidence, man? He has this fantastic audience cheering for him throughout this entire tournament already, and he just does not die. It doesn't matter what position you put him in, it doesn't matter which round of the tournament he's been in, he just keeps fighting back.
Yeah. For MaNa being able to play on a stage like this, taking in the energy of all his fans, this must be, this is an experience of a lifetime, Roddy, and if he takes this map, if he wins this game right here, this place is going to bring the roof down.
Yeah, I know. I'm almost sad that I'm not sitting downstairs now, Nate, between all these awesome fans. But we are getting ready to hop into game number 4. He's not there just yet. ForGG has also shown us great things throughout this series already, especially on Terraform, man. The ForGG we saw on Terraform, if he brings the same level of play here on Iron Fortress, there is a very big chance we'll be heading to game number 5.
Yeah, this is it. We are loading into the 4th map in this best of 5. It is a 2-1 advantage right now for our Polish Protoss player. Can the Korean Terran bring it back and secure his dreams of making it to the global finals? This is the World Championship Series. In the bottom left position, spawning as the blue Terran player, representing Team Millennium. Give it up for ForGG! His opponent currently 1 map away from a grand final appearance against Lilbo, the Polish Protoss from Team Liquid. He's MaNa!
A run that you would probably dream of at the start of the season when you know that the WCS finals will be held in your country and you know you are a great StarCraft player in Europe. This is something you can only dream of, and so far MaNa is absolutely living this dream, but he's not there just yet. We've got vertical spawns on Iron Fortress, Nate. How do you feel about it as a Terran player?
I mean, you really think about this. If you want to take that aggressive third base, it will be so easy to put pressure on the Protoss. But the drop distance to the natural is very easy to do as well. So a Protoss player, you really have to be careful with how much you let the Terran players spread yourself out, or you could take a page out of Lilbo's book and not worry about that third base.
I think this is one of those moments where obviously MaNa's going to have to worry about this natural later on, as it's very easy for ForGG to drop it, but at the same time it's also hard for ForGG to drop into the main base. You know, he has to take a very weird, awkward angle to even get there, or he has to bypass the natural, which is always risky. MaNa sends his first probe into the right direction immediately, and he's going to see that, well, at least the Rex is at home, Nate.
Yeah, knowing there's no crazy aggression here at the start of this 4th map. with this much on the line, you know, this is where the tensions start to rise a bit. He's one map away from elimination. ForGG needs to pull out his ace strategy and needs to play this map perfectly just to have a chance.
Yep, ForGG is also sending his SCV in the right direction. Taking a look at the opening build order of MaNa so far. Again, he's mining a lot of gas. 5 out of 6 probes currently on these simulators. I actually wouldn't mind to see an engineering bay block from ForGG. This is something that Happy did multiple times in his challenger match against MaNa. And I kind of feel you put yourself in an okay position if you do that. MaNa doesn't always start the Zealot. I feel he does it sometimes, but not every game. I would like to see it.
Yeah, he certainly has that option. As Mothership Core and StarCraft have just begun now, neither of them particularly great at slowing down that building of an engineering bay, but a little bit late now. The Reaper's going to come in looking for a follow-up scout.
I'm surprised this Reaper is not looking for the probe, by the way, because the SCV saw that the probe didn't return at home, and MaNa has been keeping his probe out on the map throughout the entirety of the series. Very quick eBay going down.
Yeah, ForGG is building it in his own base. He's 100% worried about dealing with the Stargate
play.
As a Terran, you see it so much. And yeah, this is as much of a mind game as you'll ever see.
Yep. Of course, ForGG was so ready for the gateways on Terraform, so he's very good into reading into stuff. But back then, it was an Oracle opening. This time,
he thought it was Blink the first time, and he's like, oh, it's the same thing. Okay, maybe it's Stargate now because that's what you actually did. But no, it's Blink. And
it should be Blink. It could, of course, be Dark Templars, but I'd be very, very surprised. I'm expecting Blink over here, Nate. This Reaper, it's very important for MaNa that he hides the information. He can't reveal the Twilight counts over here. Is ForGG going to spot the Twilight?
Oh, he's running to the right side. He will see it. It is blinking away as that research is coming in, and the Reaper looks like he's going to escape as well.
ForGG Reaper for you right there. 1 HP, scouts everything and gets the hell out of there. Bunkers going down immediately. If I'm ForGG, Nate, I wouldn't even be too scared. I would float my orbital command to my main base. I see too many Terran players often being extremely stubborn, trying to defend on the low ground. If there's an insane amount of pressure, I don't think he has to do that. We'll see. I think it all comes down to how much is MaNa going to commit to this, right?
Yeah.
The Nexus is going down. It's, of course, a very late Nexus for this matchup.
Yeah, as a Terran player, even though he scouted that it wasn't a Stargate and he built the engineering bay, he still gets a pretty fast +1 attack. And he does move back into his main. As a Terran, you really don't want to have the Protoss able to abuse you from multiple different angles with that Blink.
Yep.
Very important to see this Nexus that's under construction.
Yep, he sees the Nexus, but still, that doesn't mean all that much. I like this by ForGG. I think it's smart, but at the same time, it's good for MaNa. And I know that sounds very confusing, but if I'm MaNa right now, at least I know my opponent doesn't have that crazy economy advantage, right? Or that economic advantage. He's not building SCVs when that command center is flying. You know, he's mining only of one base, which is always a little bit less optimal than mining of 2 different mineral patches. MaNa is going to fake the aggression while actually macroing up at home. He has the robotics facility. He shouldn't, well, he's not building any workers now. It's very important for MaNa that as soon as he sees this orbital is not on the low ground, Nate, MaNa needs to start building probes. He can never, well, never, 99 out of 100 times, you should not bust a Terran that's on one base. Oh god, this can actually shut it down immediately.
Especially because he has concussive shell. He does also have Blink as a way to go against it. He needs to be very careful. Any units lost here would be really tough since that Nexus one just finished.
He's gonna start working on this Marauder. Almost gets it, don't lose the Stalker. Gets the Marauder, doesn't lose the Stalker. So first rate in favor of MaNa. And with Potent Overcharge, if he kills, yeah, he can easily hold this. ForGG should not go too gung-ho over here. If ForGG ends up losing all these units, Nate, then I start worrying about a counterattack.
Yeah, MaNa will have a big opportunity to push right back. He needs to just get that Marauder. Here comes that Marine Marauder force. And okay, still good Blink so far, picking off Marines. If you're ForGG,
oh my god,
this is a really uncomfortable spot to be in.
It must be so tense right now to micro your units. Not a single Stalker have gone down yet. If I was MaNa right now, I'd maybe let a couple of those shields regenerate. No Photon Overcharge activated either. Has to be careful. ForGG wants to use that high ground vision.
Yeah, this is a really awkward spot. There's the robotics bay being added on by MaNa so he can move into the Colossus. And yeah, you said it, really great Blinks as a Terran. It hurts so much when you have these slow bioforces. You can't do too much out on the map.
Yeah, that probe is the very first unit that have gone down. It's very nice though for ForGG that he finds this pile and that he finds the probe as well. But the Robo Bay is going down, so MaNa's not relying on some crazy Blink Stalker all in. Of course, ForGG has picked up on that already. He did float the orbital back to the low ground, but that meant he lost a lot of mining time during all that, Nate.
Yeah, and he's still pretty scared of the aggression with that second bunker coming in. MaNa does lose 2 Stalkers here, so that's going to really stimmy his aggression. But I'm thinking in this position, you still got to be happy. If you're ForGG, your start port is really, really late relative to when the Colossi will be out.
Yep, I do think that this is going to be a rather passive game, though. Of course, there's a small chance that MaNa rushes up to Colossus and makes a 2-base Colossus push. But I think that's going to be very tricky, very risky as well. And MaNa has shown us on Coda, man, that he has absolutely no problem in playing the longer game, in playing a more passive style. How great was his defense on Coda? That was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was top tier, really. And it's phenomenal to see a Protoss just like this, because ForGG has really brought the heat, dropping in multiple places at once. And I'm really liking this. So ForGG's finishing up that +1 armor. It's still interesting to note that there is no armory.
And it's going to go down. ForGG finds that observer immediately. Doesn't want to reveal the fact whether or not Rex number 4 and 5 are going to go down, or if it's going to be Command Center in number 3. Of course, always a big decision for the Terran.
Now, this is really important. He does start the armory, and this really says ForGG is thinking about a longer game. We're unlikely to have him go for the same timing of that big push. He can play out a little bit better, trade more effectively against a better upgraded Protoss force.
3 more gateways going down for MaNa. That's going to push him to 6 gates already, Nate, and he doesn't have a forge yet.
Yeah, this is actually pretty interesting. He could be gearing up for that big push that you talked about, and in that case, the armory kind of works against you. You'd want to be doing what ForGG did on Moonlight Madness, which is the double starport, reactored, pushing out 4 Vikings at a time. That's what he, you know, if he could know what was going on like we do, that's probably what he would go for.
Violence already being pushed across the map. MaNa's going to be very aggressive over here. He's going to find his army. He has to be so careful with his stalkers. He's always careful. Could drop force fields over here, Nate.
Catches a bit of this army here towards the ramp. Most of it does escape. ForGG needs to be very careful. That army could crush his in an instant.
Okay, he's going to try to counterattack immediately. The Mothership Core is with the army. I think in general, when you want to do 2-base all-ins, I think you should leave the Mothership Core at home. Because the moment these 16 bio units unload, Nate, there is no stabilizing anymore. Unless you get very fortunate with a Colossus popping and the right position with your Zealots and stuff. MaNa's gonna pushing himself pretty much all in here, because I don't think he can defend against the drop. But can ForGG defend against his army of MaNa?
That's a tough question.
Oh
2
my God,
medevacs
no,
load
that's too
out.
much.
He doesn't have anything here to defend anymore. ForGG, look, everything's just kind of out of his base, and now the natural expansion immediately gets forfeited. He's gonna move here. There's the big drop. Most of the gateways are also exposed here. He can shut down MaNa's production in an instant too.
Yep, all the gateways are close to each other, but I'm so surprised that ForGG sent out those other extra units as well. ForGG is gonna go for the Nexi instead. There is a Colossus in the natural, but that one is gonna get picked off immediately. Recall maybe? Is that something that we could potentially see here, Nate? Or is MaNa just gonna go all out? ForGG picks up everything.
Yeah, he loads the rest of his forces out. He's going full Bolt here, just trying to target down Nexi and see if he can make a big play. And all the buildings have been lifted up. If MaNa wants to win this game, he does need some way of dealing with floating buildings.
Probes are being sent out on the map, but MaNa does not have enough money for a Nexus. He does have enough money for a Stargate, maybe, eventually. If this turns into a crazy scenario, he gets the orbital. That's the most important thing. The most important thing here for MaNa is that he shuts down the orbitals. One does get away for now, though.
And this is also going to be really difficult. ForGG has a lot of resources left. MaNa needs to kill these supply depots so that he can't rebuild his army from these floating buildings and landing them randomly around the map either.
Yep, of course, MaNa only on pylons right now. Has to be very careful with his money. Don't lose the workers. Well, he has plenty of probes. He just doesn't have money for a Nexus, which is very, very unfortunate. Which means that I think the only thing he can... Oh, God, he's going to lose... Oh, his supply Nate, he's not gonna, well, I guess technically he can eventually kill the army and then kill his own units and then make a Stargate. Make a Phoenix, this is such a big catch.
Yeah, getting this orbital is really important. This will reveal ForGG's buildings. He needs to kill it. If it lands and drops a mule, no, he won't be able to. No more command centers, but ForGG had enough minerals left to start one in the northeast side. He needs a way to get around the map quickly.
Can this tournament become any more epic, Nate? This is just ridiculous. Every single game, ForGG will start hunting for pylons right now. MaNa doesn't have a whole lot of pylons. He's losing 2 at the same time right now. Taking a look, he actually only has 3 pylons left. Forward blink is going to get a couple of units here.
This is so intense right now. ForGG's army is just so much more mobile than MaNa's.
Oh, but MaNa has to be careful. He can't spend more money. This is the money that he needs for Phoenix, right?
Oh, the medevacs roll there on the left side. MaNa's blinks forward. He tries to get it. No, okay. Some of the buildings that are floating are still here, but where's his last structures?
He's been warping in and simulating. I think MaNa won't have enough money anymore to make a Phoenix, which he eventually needs to tie this game. Because I believe there is a small sweet spot for building.
Oh, we'll just grab 2 medevacs there on the right side, and the assimilator does get picked off, but the Colossi and Sentry's not really able to deal with that as they pick off the rest of the SCVs. But that command center in the northeast, it's almost done, Kev.
Yeah, the command center is almost done, but of course ForGG has been bleeding out so much money, army, Army supply right now 56 against 20. There's no, or 29. There's no way that ForGG can actually ever take a straight up engagement. MaNa has, I believe, a couple of sentries left. Sentries are so phenomenal here, by the way, because he can hallucinate phoenixes, and he's going to find that tech lab indeed on the left top side of the map, and might find this command center.
It's really important that ForGG doesn't get enough supply to start getting a Banshee and Cloak, because he has the resources for it, and once he has that, there's no detection here. Two Colossi walking by, sees these medevacs, he sees the Terran army. Starkers are going to blink out. He wants to grab these forces. The Marauders target a few of these. If he can get the medevacs, he can cut off the mobility of this force.
Yep. And ForGG is going to run circles for now, not a forward blink. Of course, you still have to be careful because MaNa can't reproduce his units either.
He needs to get the command center. He needs to shut that base down.
Yeah, he's going to chase the medevacs down. Nate, where are his probes? Okay, he has probes with the army. He's going to lose all buildings in the left bottom side of the map. MaNa, you need to drop a building real soon. We've seen this before. Please drop a building real soon. MaNa!
He needs to build a pylon.
Oh, this is Simulator, right, the last building!
It's his last building. He needs to start building right now. Okay, he's got one on the way. There's one on the way. He's building an assimilator in the bottom right corner of the map. He has enough resources to build another. He's actually going to pull the whole Terran army to the southeast. This is actually brilliant because he has enough to start one more. And I think if he leaves his Colossi and Zealots with this one, he should be okay.
That's smart. That's so smart. Imagine if you cancel.
Oh, if he sees this, he needs to see this command center. It's right here. He's got it. He sees it. He can prevent it. No more command centers for ForGG. That was his one more SCV. Where is it? Okay, it's on the left side, so he can still build another one and deny that revelation of his structures.
That is a sweet spot though, Nate. So I think we're looking at a potential tie over here because there's no way that Stalkers can shoot from both angles over there at that factory. And MaNa used all his money to build his pylons and simulators. He has no money to get a Nexus. He has no money to get a Stargate.
We do have a pause, so I'm assuming we are going to do a check to see how exactly the players want to act this scenario out. Because we do have a weird choice in front of us.
Yep. I guess we're just going to wait for now. Of course, we don't want to reveal any sensible or sensitive information about this ridiculously crazy series. If you just joined us, welcome to the semifinals, the second semifinals of WCS Premier League Season 3, where the winner will move on to fight for $30,000 and, of course, a chance at that also prestigious title.
A lot of money, a lot of prestige on the line, and what a crazy series we've had so far, Kev. As really coming down to the wire. Even in this map, we could potentially see a game number 5. Iron Fortress has certainly lived up to our expectations.
Yes. I mean, like I said, it just can't get any more crazy. Like yesterday, we had one of the best StarCraft 2 days of all time. And so far today, Nate, it's absolutely not disappointing. Our first semifinals was great, with Zense putting up such a good fight against Lilba, who's still fighting for that BlizzCon ticket. And right now here in our second semifinals, I mean, you can't even make this up. ForGG, one of the other 2 players that was fighting for that BlizzCon ticket, going up against the home crowd favorite over here. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so crazy. Playing on a stage in front of your fellow countrymen, and then ForGG playing for a chance to go to the global finals to compete at BlizzCon. And think about who they have waiting for them on the other side if they move on from this round. You've got Lilbo in the grand finals, also fighting for his BlizzCon dream, and ForGG, a player he's already defeated in this tournament.
Yep. ForGG has his headset back on. I'm not 100% sure if MaNa has his headset back on. As soon as we have that confirmed, we can talk perhaps a little bit about the state of the game again. Nate, you're a Terran player. How many times have you tried to base trade here? And is that a 100% guaranteed sweet spot? All right.
Yeah, it's a sweet spot. So we're receiving a little bit of information, Kev.
So I believe it is right now confirmed by our referee that this is 100% a draw. If you guys thought we haven't seen everything yet here at WCS, Nate, we have a draw in the semifinals.
That's right. So unable to finish the game, either player a little bit too exposed. We're going to replay this map, Iron Fortress, for what will be, I guess, now game number 5. What a crazy turn of events so far here today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This awesome crowd, all of you online as well.
I know we have a lot of people who perhaps don't play StarCraft as much as we do. If you guys wonder why was that a draw, wasn't MaNa winning that game? Well, yes, he had the stronger army, but to win a game of StarCraft 2, you have to eliminate all the buildings of your opponent. Most of the time, people will give up before that because there is always a way that that person will be able to do that, but not if your opponent has no money and no flying units. If you can then float a factory or a command center or whatever flying building to a corner of the map or any spot on the map where Stalkers can't reach it, well, it's a draw, because there was no way ever that MaNa was going to be able to eliminate ForGG his buildings.
Shout out to you too, Spain. So many people watching from around the world, so many different nationalities coming here to compete in the World Championship Series. And yeah, Iron Fortress, man, you have that space where those buildings can flow to. You can't attack it, and you know, it comes down to you need to allocate resources. You need to anticipate that this could possibly happen. And for the Terran player, well, you need to have something that can actually kill that last building.
Yeah, I kind of felt that MaNa, he could have just protected his pylons on the bottom of the map. And I felt at first, when he didn't drop any buildings yet, I think he had money for a Stargate. And of course, he would be supply blocked. But what he could do is start sniping all the units of ForGG until there's almost no units left. Then MaNa could kill his own units, hypothetically speaking, and then get one Phoenix out, and that one Phoenix would win the game.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to. But, you know, 4GG had full map vision, too, so it's really hard to hide something like that. And it seems like players are getting ready once again. But, man, what a great day of StarCraft. Oh, coming up after this series, we have the cinematic reveal for Legacy of the Void 2. A lot of hype around this, as we have to find a lot of new information out.
I'm so hyped about that video, Nate. I said it before. We've seen the Landed Viking for a couple of years right now of that Heart of the Swarm cinematic trailer. And, of course, we want to see something similar here. A couple of the commentators have seen it. They've all said it's super badass. I haven't seen it yet, Nate, but I can't wait.
All right, so this is a really exciting moment now as we get back into the lobby, preparing to go back into Iron Fortress. And, you know, that last game did start off pretty crazy, too. So I'm wondering if MaNa's going to dial it back a little bit. Maybe we'll still have some other variety of aggressive play. There's so many options, really.
Yep. It's not the first time, by the way, that 4GG tried to do this. The moment that 4GG loses against the Protoss, he often evacuates immediately, and then he tries to start the base trade. And that's just something that, you know, he's great in sniping Nexus. That's why he didn't unpower the gateways. No, he went for the Nexus immediately. 4GG, he had one goal in that previous game. I'm going to make sure you're as broke as possible. I'm going to make sure you can't mine anymore, and then I'll make sure my buildings fly and you can't touch them. And, you know, the worst case scenario, it's a draw. Best case scenario, maybe I can win by sniping your buildings or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Terran player and you can't defeat that army, you have no Vikings and there's Colossi, the best option is to use the one advantage you have with your army composition. Medivacs, you have the boost. You can get around very quickly, and if the Protoss army can't reach you and they can't kill your flying buildings, you have the potential to eventually pick them apart over a long enough period of time. He lost a little bit too much to be able to do that, hence the draw.
Yep. Iron Fortress is going to be map number 4 or 5, however you want it, once again. But of course, the score is still 2-1 in favor of our Polish Protoss MaNa. 4GG, man. Talking about fighting to keep your BlizzCon dreams alive, Nate. If this guy is not fighting, then I don't know what fighting means in StarCraft 2.
Yeah, what an intense series we have had. Thank you guys so much once again for tuning in. This has been a phenomenal weekend of StarCraft. Some of the greatest upsets, comebacks we've seen in StarCraft history basically have happened here in Krakow, Poland, and it's been a pleasure to be a part of it. We are loading in to Iron Fortress once again to find out who will potentially move on to the Grand Finals to face Millennium's Lilbo.
Both players getting ready. Of course, it's always hard to reset your mind, but they're going to have to do it. MaNa in particular probably felt like, man, I was so close there. I had that game. I had the better army. Could I have done something different? Well, Nate, it's time to forget about it and pretend that previous game never happened. And let's just start over with Iron Fortress all over again.
That's right. We are back on Iron Fortress to replay game number 4 in the bottom right position, spawning as the blue Terran player. We have Millennium's 4GG. And his opponent in the bottom left position, the red Polish Protoss. We have Team Liquid's MaNa.
I love the way that MaNa has played this series so far, though, Nate. He has shown us so much variety in his openings, right? It's either just a very quick Nexus, or it's a Stalker mothership going to Stargate, or it's into a Twilight. He's making it so difficult for 4GG to figure out what's going on. And of course, 4GG has been trying to do the same. He has been switching it up a little bit, but most of the time, he's the one reacting to what he thinks MaNa is doing, rather than dictating the pace of the series. And I always feel whenever you play StarCraft and you force your opponent to always try to answer your strategies, you already have a leg up.
Yeah, in a game of strategy where you don't have all the information in front of you, even the misdirection that we saw on the last, well, on this map, but the first time they played, throwing up that Twilight Council, baiting him into the fast engineering bay, thinking it could be a proxy Oracle play. There's just so much at stake. And MaNa already gets a nice start to this game. He'll go right over to ForGG's base with his first probe scout.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, by the way, this tournament for MaNa, but every single probe he sends out, he finds his opponent immediately, and it's a small thing in StarCraft. Of course, it doesn't matter all that much, but it's just nice, you know. It's like, all right, I know nothing crazy is happening. I can actually be annoying over here with that probe, you know, just use that taser a little bit, harass these SCVs. Perhaps a couple of these SCVs will be pulled off the mineral patches. It's all small things, but StarCraft 2, we've said it so many times, it's definitely a game of momentum, it's a game of mindset. You know, all of these guys are fantastic players, and often the player that just feels best on this given day, that has the most confidence, that plays with no fear, is going to win. And right now, it's all those small things, they do pile up.
Yeah, this is a truly crazy thing. And we can see ForGG heading in not quite directly towards his opponent's base with his first SCV scout. With horizontal spawns, you can still drop very quickly into your opponent's natural, very similar to what we talked about the last time they played on this map.
Yep, most likely this Zealot will get cancelled, as MaNa right now has 400 minerals to drop that Nexus. So he's switching it up again, Nate. Previous game it was a Stalker and a Mothership Core before he threw down that Nexus. Now he's going to do that immediately. This time an eBay block wouldn't have been all that successful because you know, there was a Zealot on the way, and if he lets that Zealot finish, well, then of course ForGG is still investing in that.
Yeah, so in this game, we're going to see ForGG go back to that factory opening.
That probe, Nate.
We could see a mine drop once again.
Yeah, that probe is heading into the main base of ForGG, and this is so nice. We've mentioned this multiple times before, but seeing this factory as a Protoss player, that just eliminates so many things that you have to worry about.
Yeah, the Reaper is going to continue to dance around the main base. ForGG is looking for any tech structures his opponent may be hiding. He doesn't want to be caught off guard by something like a fast Oracle, a fast harassment unit, or a Dark Templar, something like that.
Nope, this Reaper is still alive. Of course, the Reaper wants to know what's going down. 5-minute robotics facility. That's very fast, to say the least, Nate. That's not something we see super often anymore. Could give us the idea that we're getting ready for maybe another 2-base Colossus push, or just very quick observers, but this Reaper is going to be annoying over here, man. ForGG is a king of Reapers.
Yeah, this Reaper even gets a probe kill, so not bad, while also being able to see that robotics facility. He does get that second probe kill, so the robotics facility still gives him the possibility to get an observer out in time for this mine drop, but okay, very fast Stargate follow-up. This is unusual.
Yeah, I know. This is a very strange build. Stalker into a robotics facility, into a Stargate. Of course, sometimes doing the unusual thing is what actually is going to give you the most return of investment. You know, right now, as ForGG, you're not going to build missile turrets, right? After you see what you saw, there is zero reason for you to get missile turrets, unless you somehow think there might be a proxy Dark Shrine somewhere on the map, but just extremely, extremely unlikely. So this Oracle, even though it arrives a lot later than it could normally arrive, there is a chance it finds a completely exposed mineral line with no Widow Mines, with no Marines, and if you kill 7, 8, 9 Marines, well, then it was a great decision.
Yeah, and in this position, there is that Oracle on the way. The Observer is moving out too to try to spot where this medevac will be coming from, and ForGG is looking to get a lot of damage done with those Widow Mines, burrowing them, getting that splash in. He does start an engineering bay, so that'll help, but he might be thinking about upgrades.
He's keeping units at home, he's keeping the Marines at home. It's just the Widow Mines that are being sent across the map. MaNa will see this medevac with his Observer, and that's very nice. It's very unlikely ForGG saw that Observer, because most of the time you don't look at your medevac when it's flying like that. 3 Stalkers are waiting for it. ForGG is going to see these Stalkers, and access denied for now.
Yep, the Oracle is going to start to move east towards ForGG's base. The Observer is looking for where those Marines are positioned, and he's going to change his course of direction. He's going to try to dance around where the defenses are and get some good worker kills in here.
Yeah, he should be able to get 4 or 5 SCVs over here, Nate. Here comes that Oracle. We're going to take a look at that first-person view of MaNa, but this is what you want to see as a Protoss. No missile turret.
Yeah, he moves in now towards the natural expansion. These SCVs are also exposed. You can see his first-person view as he targets those forces down, but he also has to defend. There's the one left up on the mine. He needs to move his probes away from the Widow Mine. It's going to move in and detonates. Gets about 3 or so probes here. The second Widow Mine still alive. He does need to stop that one from burrowing too.
It's not going to, but it will only kill a single probe, so that could have been a lot worse. Very interesting exchange there. 6 workers for 5, but the Oracle went down as well in the process, I believe. So I think overall, I think that was an okay-ish trade for ForGG. I wouldn't mind it all that much if I'm a Terran player, Nate. How do you feel about it?
He did get the medevac. These Phoenix are going to shut down any follow-up drops, and Stim is still very, very late relative to where everything else is going. The first Colossus is in production too for MaNa. It could get a bit dicey if he pushes with 2 or 3. ForGG can't really drop right now because he doesn't have Stim anymore. He doesn't have Stim.
And there's only a single gateway, so I guess that's the only thing that ForGG can hang on to. But yeah, I think after looking at that situation a little bit closer, I think it's okay for MaNa. I don't think it was fantastic. If he kept the Oracle alive, then I think it would have been a very good trade. You know, killing 7 SCVs for only 4 probes and then also killing 2 mines and a medevac, that would have been great. Losing the Oracle stings a little bit, but it's still very acceptable for the Protoss.
Yeah, we have that first Colossus about to come out. MaNa poking forward with his Stalkers. He's just trying to buy time so that the Colossus can finish and he can prepare his defenses.
Yeah, and let's not forget, there's only a single medevac over here. That's a little bit sloppy. 1 Stalker does go down. I mean, MaNa is still only on 1 gate, I believe, Nate, and this is actually a small problem. A couple of units will be unloaded on the high ground. I think that's a very smart play here by ForGG. He's going to avoid photon overcharge for now. Needs to keep this Colossus alive, and he does do that.
Yeah, the Phoenix comes in, now he's able to grab one of these Marauders, making good use of the forces at bay.
That's a great trade. That's an absolutely great trade there for MaNa. I don't think he lost anything. Maybe 1 Stalker or something. He's up 9 workers. This could be a very, very big gateway explosion right now. There's no probe out on the map, but if MaNa sends a probe north soon, that's going to take an accurate angle. There's a very good chance he's going to drop islands, and we'll see another big 2-base push.
Yeah, and you know what? There's one thing that will definitely deal well with that,
3
and it's
bases.
Phoenix if he were to try to lift off and do anything crazy. Nice. He doesn't have a Forge. He's just going for Phoenix and Colossi.
Yeah, but he did build a lot of probes though, Nate. So I think he's actually going to go up to 3 bases here. So he's on 51 workers already. So he's going to drop this Nexus. Scan went down there for ForGG, trying to find an observer. I believe he did kill one. Phoenix is trying to see where these buy units are.
And he wants to keep tabs on any medevacs, as the Phoenix can deal very well with them. Even when they boost, they can still catch up to them and chase them in the skies.
Man, all these key upgrades have finished up. MaNa right now is on 3 gates. That's going to make his life a little bit easier. I heard a Widowmine burrow somewhere. I'm not sure where.
I think he's just setting up outside of his base in case any units were to try to run by and bring harassment to him. We do have a large medevac load up on the south side, and it's going to fly straight into the Phoenix.
Okay, so that's very nice. Maybe with a little bit of luck, MaNa is going to kill 1 medevac, but the most important thing is he will deflect this completely. Takes 0 damage.
Third base is vulnerable though. Marines and Marauders are going to rush in, trying to force a cancel on this. The Colossi are close, but will they be able to save it? Will he have to restart this base? You don't want to do that. He's managed to get there in the nick of time.
Wow, that's actually such a big save, Nate. Few more Marauders in the mix there for ForGG, and that Nexus would go down. I mean, this is a very big Nexus. He's up 10 workers, the Forge is going down. There is no 3rd command center yet for ForGG. We've seen this before, man. We've seen this on Coda. If MaNa stabilizes on 3 bases, which is very difficult, not too many Marines here. The Phoenix is going to pick up these Marines. What a great trade here for MaNa. He's going to pick up everything and not lose anything.
Big drop coming over to the natural. ForGG's putting it all in here into the natural expansion. He's going to try to keep moving towards the main. A full medevac almost picked up, but the Colossi are all here. 1 finishes right next to them, so they're able to grab that one.
God.
But 3 shooting from the low ground.
They're getting money shots off, Nate. They got so much splash damage done. All these units are extremely committed as well for ForGG. Yes, he's going to get a couple of probes, but ForGG will lose all of his medevacs and all his bio units.
His whole entire army swallowed by this Protoss army. And now with 3 bases and no 3rd command center, how is ForGG supposed to push off past this position?
He lost pretty much all of his medevacs. Only 4 medevacs remain. ForGG is going to counter immediately, but these Phoenixes, Nate, the Phoenixes are still alive. All that MaNa has to do is make sure that he finds that. ForGG is buying time for himself. MaNa realizing, hey man, you've lost so many units. There's no way you've got anything at home. Are we going to see base trade number 2? This time it shouldn't happen though, because Phoenixes can take care of medevacs.
That's right. Big drop hits the natural expansion as the probes run away from the 3rd. The Phoenix are here with the Zealots. MaNa is bringing everything home. He does not want to risk being caught in a similar position as the last game.
He just lost 19 workers, Nate. This was very successful so far. These 2 Marauders will get lifted up. The robotics facility is taking a lot of damage and will get picked up. But again, these units, well, they should not be able to get out. The Phoenix is coming in from the north.
And he's going to be able to get these medevacs. There's so much ground for them to cover. They don't have any more boost left. Fully loaded medevacs will be destroyed, forcing them to unload in the main base. The Colossi are more than enough to deal with this army.
These are, I mean, I know MaNa has taken a lot of damage to his economy. These mines are very frustrating. More medevacs coming in. But these are not You know, this is not sustainable for ForGG. How many times can you do this, Nate?
I mean, apparently a lot. He doesn't have that much gas left in this, though. He can only continue to afford this for so much off of 2 bases. These mines are going to detonate, but he has the observers to clean them up. He's trading out for a few probes here and there, but he is destroying the entire army of ForGG once again.
MaNa is going to clean up this army as well, and then the army of ForGG is going to be really quite small. I mean, this time, or maybe the next time when he flies over, maybe MaNa can even intercept it. MaNa just needs to stabilize right now for one moment, get observers in the right position, get a few extra cages. Look at the amount of gas at MaNa. MaNa is dominating this game. If you take a look at the units lost resource tab, ForGG has lost 8,800 resources against 5,200 of MaNa. You know, this is MaNa's game. He's mining more and he's losing less.
The Phoenix are headed over towards where the north side drop is. They can try to push this back. There's no Marines, so he can actually lift those up, pick those off, and run away, or force the Widow Mines to throw. And at the same time, MaNa has his main army pushing the main base of ForGG. And if he gets in here, there's nothing here to defend. He's been flying every single unit he's built across the map. MaNa's pushing in. He has 3 Colossi. There is nothing here to defend for ForGG. The Zealots are going to waltz in. The 3rd command center is vulnerable, and now the Phoenix are waiting at the natural to defend. What is he gonna do?
This is an unstoppable army, and of course the MaNa is of course with the army as well, so he can recall. Phoenix has picked up that first medevac. The Polish clone player MaNa is in an absolutely phenomenal position to do the almost unthinkable, but that is to go to the finals.
And if he can just clear this force out, he will find himself playing versus Lilbo in the grand finals of Season 3. MaNa cleared every SCV out of the natural. He's cleared every SCV out of the main, and he's defended the drop at his natural. He's up 100 supply to 50. There's nothing left for ForGG, barely hanging on at this point.
ForGG has 3 SCVs left. He has to clean up this army and then somehow clean up the army on the other side as well. He's going to try to drop Marauders on the low ground. He's going to try to kill the Colossus, and he does not succeed in doing so just yet. Might get it soon though, but he has lost so much. MaNa can bring over the Phoenixes right now. Here come the reinforcements.
And this should be what he needs to try to close this one out, Kev. 3 SCVs to 45 probes. The Templar Archives charge, Colossus coming in. Those are the tools he will need to finish this game. He grabs the Widow Mines, he's going to pick those up and run. And there's just been so few Marines in these armies.
Yep, MaNa has to be a tiny bit careful, right? He doesn't have to finish it right here, right now. He has 45 probes against 3 SCVs. I mean, Nate, mules are good, but
they're not that good, yeah. And with this Templar Archives, you morph in a couple of Archons with the charge that you already have, and you're going to go wreck base.
Barely any energy as well on these medevacs. I mean, if the armies clash right now before the Colossus is out, ForGG has a slightly stronger army. But MaNa, he's going to be able to buy enough time for
7
himself.
High Templar are coming out, Roddy. We are going to have so many Archons, so tanky, so powerful versus this Marine heavy force.
I cannot believe with the season that MaNa's had so far that we're in this position right now, Nate. We've pretty much seen it all. He's going to lift up the mines.
And he's going to push through and clean up this army. The Colossus giving chase, the Archons giving chase, and everything lifted into the air. MaNa quintupling the supply of ForGG will push through and will advance to the grand finals of Season 3 for the World Championship Series. GG!
A fairy tale StarCraft 2 story right here unfolding in front of our eyes. I cannot believe it. MaNa. Oh man, the home crowd favorite. Nate, I don't even know what to say. This is ridiculous. He's done it. He's moving into the grand finals where Lilbo is waiting for him. But yesterday this place went ham. I don't even want to know what they're going to do with him today.
That's right, MaNa is your other finalist. He moves on to the finals here in Krakow, Poland. MaNa, I mean, if we want to ask about the game, I think we have questions on pretty much every single map, every single second. But first of all, how does this look to you? I mean, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Well, I guess it couldn't get even more beautiful. I think I'm so proud of you guys for cheering, even for me. But I would like to give... I would also give a very big shout out to ForGG. Please, if you guys could give some shout out to ForGG as well, because he did a very good tournament, so thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have been cheering for every player, and that's what's been so beautiful. But of course, no one can blame this crowd cheering for you. And MaNa, first of all, the draw. We have to talk about that. What a crazy game. What was running through your head when you realized, all right, it is a draw? What were you thinking? Were you phased at all? Were you worried?
I think I was a little bit shaken a little bit because I thought I could have won it because he lost a lot of units for free here and there. But then, well, I couldn't kill his building, so I'm like, well, it is a draw. But I think I dodged the bullet because I should have lost that game, I think.
All right, well, MaNa, congratulations once again. You are moving on to the finals. Ladies and gentlemen, one match left here at the WCS Season 3 Finals. Let's get a quick word from our experts on that crazy best of 5.
For the first time in the history of the World Championship Series, we have an all-European final. In 2013, Stefano versus MVP. Last season in 2015, Lilbo versus Hydra. And for the third time with a European in the final, it is an all-European battle, Artosis.
Indeed it is. Can't really talk over that, though. This crowd going crazy right now for ForGG, who unfortunately won't be making it in BlizzCon, but put on a fantastic show here tonight.
Yeah, sadly, ForGG finishes mid-20th again this year, but MaNa moves on to fight. As mentioned, in the double European final in Control, I didn't think this was going to be possible from Challenger, but MaNa plays in the grand finals against Lilbo.
Claws his way from Challenger, who's down 0-2, to this, the finals. And to be honest, this was not a close series, actually. I mean, I felt like he brutalized ForGG. I felt like he had ForGG on his back foot the entire time, defensively, actually, which is kind of a weird way to say that. But it was like all of his drops, all of his aggression, which has been hell for people to deal with. MaNa just looked unmovable. He looked great the entire time. Really well played.
I actually felt a little bit bad watching those games. I was like, you know, ForGG is so strong. MaNa's got to be tricky. And MaNa was just the rock. He was the solid anchor in that game. And ForGG was just waves breaking against the rock. He wasn't being able to penetrate at all. And MaNa just kind of stepping it up every single series. He keeps on reaching a new level. He keeps on defying those expectations.
And it's crazy to think. You look at a lot of real sports and you say the home team has a big advantage because of the 80% crowd that's behind them or whatever it is in a stadium. And for the first time, I think we're really feeling that in StarCraft 2 today. MaNa has been pushed forward and forward and forward with the assistance of the crowd here. And it's shown he's made it to the finals.
There's no doubt that in the lower rounds, he was not playing this good. And he is just playing better and better and better. I have to agree with Jeff. I think that he just destroyed ForGG. He was in command of most of those games for most of the game. This crowd is doing wonders for him. And this is like a turning point in esports history to see crowds actually affecting the players that they're cheering for.
And I love, by the way, that we were just guaranteed an amazing finals. Like, Lilbo, still the juggernaut. There's a lot of people who are going to be hyped about him playing for BlizzCon. But MaNa, with this tidal wave of momentum coming up behind him, like, guys, we're talking about it. Hopefully you guys can hear it on the stream. I hope they're micing them up because it's loud, it's thunderous, it's positive. And MaNa is just breathing it in. Like, he's not even out there, like, shaking, like, thank you guys so much. I can't believe I'm here. Like, he's totally confident. He comes out, he's like, thank you. Please clap for the guy that I destroyed. Thank you very much. Because I'm going to kill another nerd here in a second.
You got to be thinking that too. The way that MaNa's been, rolling through the playoffs this weekend, looking at Lilbo, goes into the game against Zance, he's like, all right, Zance, I just beat Hydra, bro. Come at me.
Survives him.
He survives him. And then you think about the grand finals now, from Lilbo's perspective, he's like, okay, I'm going up against MaNa in a matchup that I'm not the best at, and I've said many, many times that I don't like this matchup compared to the others, and that he is going against the Whole Crown favorite. And for a player that we've all been thinking after the Hydra win that Lilbo should go and take it all, it's not that simple anymore.
It's kind of crazy because these were both the players who made yesterday as insane as it was. They're both the players who were almost out, and they've both had huge crowd support. Obviously, MaNa a little bit more even, but it's just been, these are the guys who have actually kept it together the best on stage, and they've shown the most kind of ability to calm the storm within themselves.
Yes.
And all that training and all those years of work, and rather than getting panicked or excited, they've brought the right builds, they've done the right reactions under pressure, and now to see them face off in the finals, I mean, I know the crowd's just going to be going crazy for both sides, but at the end of the day, we are going to see the two most exciting stories clash in this final.
Well, I want to ride your coattails on that point because it's been so amazing being able to watch these guys develop. Like, Lilbo was tested. He was down 0-2 against Hydra. It was game 3 where we're like, all right, you're dead, 0-3. Okay, it's Hydra. then he claws his way back. And MaNa, we've been talking about this up to wazoo, like 0-2 comeback, 0-2 comeback. And both these guys have had their moments where it's like, you could exit here and we'll have a very typical Hydra versus Polt, Hydra versus ForGG, something like that. But instead, both these players grew before our eyes, and one of these two guys is going to be a champion of a WCS season. That is mind-boggling.
Yeah, that's huge. It just doesn't happen anymore. We always have Korean national players winning every StarCraft tournament in the world. Almost every esports tournament in the world,
the big ones. Yeah. Especially the big ones.
For $30,000 and 2,000 WCS points, it is such a big deal. But now we either get a Polish champion on his home turf, or a non-Korean player at BlizzCon, which, I mean, both of them are fantastic.
All right, let's check in with the bracket now. As you can see, the road to the grand finals that we've had here in Krakow. We started in the quarterfinals with the results on the left-hand side through to the semis and have landed with an all-European final. For the first time ever in the World Championship Series, we have that. And of course, off the back end of that, for the first time ever, we will have a non-Korean winner in this tournament. And as you said, Artosis, it's either Lilbo who goes to BlizzCon who wins this, or MaNa wins on his home turf. It couldn't be better.
I just realized something, by the way.
What's that, Jeff?
We're about to show off Legacy of the Void.
It's around the
corner. And in the finals, before Legacy of the Void, we have 2 Protoss players. It's as if...
It's perfect.
It's as if they're built into the story.
It's perfect.
Chris Siggety's behind this crap, I can feel it.
Throughout the weekend, that's what it's felt like, hasn't it? We're almost ready to go to the cinema, but here's the last couple of moments of the game here, and you can just see how much it meant for MaNa. Unfortunately, ForGG's BlizzCon hopes are gone, but MaNa moves on to the finals. And as mentioned, Artosis, you just couldn't have scripted a better
This is fan fiction. This is fan fiction that we're watching. I mean, if I'm at home, I'm starting to think of some conspiracy theories, you know, like, who thought this up? Shouldn't we make it a little bit more believable, like have Polt in the finals? But no, this is reality.
This is it,
and not just that, but in just a few moments here, we are going to get to see when Legacy of the Void is coming out. I mean, this is...
That too, yeah.
I'm having a good time this weekend, guys.
Pierogies for everyone.
I've had so many pierogies. Those are fantastic as well.
Pierogies for everyone.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Final thoughts then before we get into this. Real fast, Pig. Who are you thinking is going to take this on? I'm only going to ask you, who's going to take the championship? I want you to tell me. No, I don't care about Artosis. In control, second best. You're the number one.
I'll settle for
Who's winning?
You know, this is something I haven't even had time to digest and think about, and...
I'll jump in there. No, I'm just going to go ahead.
Come on, Pig.
All right, I'm going to go with what I said earlier on in the weekend. I'm going to say Lilbo, even though I'm so doubtful, I'm so 50-50, I'm going to say Lilbo.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. It is time for the Legacy of the Void cinematic. We're all excited for it here. I hope you are as well. Let's